Hi everybody, welcome to the first day of the Travelpayouts Affiliate Summit 2020. My name is Natalia Belova and I'm a Partner Relations Manager at Travelpayouts. And today I'll be a moderator of the first part of this stream. A small reminder for you guys, today we'll have just one major stream, so join all sessions that you are interested in. You can check the schedules in your calendars. Today, we are speaking about SEO with Bryan and Laurie from Budget Your Trip and Tristam Jarman from Purple Smudge. And after that, we'll have a Q&A session with Oneika Raymond. As always, I would like to give you an idea of how you can network with each other. You can talk to other participants in the Travel Affiliate Club group on Facebook. After each presentation, except for the Q&A session with Oneika, we'll have a Q&A session. So feel free to ask your questions right in the YouTube chat box. And also, we'll send you all the recording of these videos after. So let's move on to our first speaker for today, Bryan Tighe from Budget Your Trip. Bryan will tell us about advanced WordPress with SEO and affiliate marketing. Don't forget to ask your questions. Bryan, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you. Today we'll be talking about advanced WordPress with SEO and affiliate marketing. Like she said, my name is Bryan Tighe, and I'm the co-founder of budgetyourtrip.com, along with my wife, Laurie. Laurie and I started budgetyourtrip.com about 10 years ago. It's hard to believe. And recently we reached the milestone of having over 1 million monthly page views. That was before the pandemic, of course. And now our traffic is significantly lower, but it's still doing okay. I've been a software and website developer for over 20 years. Building websites has been a major part of my career. I've built websites for small companies and large companies and government agencies. I've built websites in WordPress and Drupal and just straight up code such as PHP and Java and other languages. I've built custom plugins and custom themes for WordPress. And I've also, learned a lot on my own about SEO and user interface design, content creation, monetization, and things like that in order to make Budget Your Trip successful. So in the last, 10 years or so, I've gotten a lot into the marketing side of website development as well. So today we're going to talk about SEO in WordPress and affiliate marketing in WordPress, as well as a number of helpful WordPress plugins. We're also going to hit on a little bit more about security and marketing and promotion. This session, is entitled Advanced WordPress because we hope that you already have some knowledge of WordPress, such as, hopefully you've already installed it and hopefully you've already been using it to build your website and create content and things like that. And hopefully you'll learn some more about some of the specific details about doing SEO and affiliate marketing in WordPress and learn some more about some of the great plugins that are out there. Because there's quite literally thousands of plugins for WordPress. It's hard to pick out which ones are the best and which ones are the best for your website. So let's get started. We'll talk about first SEO, search engine optimization in WordPress. But first let's talk about, WordPress out of the box before we start getting into some of the plugins. So, SEO in WordPress is not bad. But, as you know, if you're using WordPress, it gets better every year because the developers of WordPress are always updating everything. Just recently, they released an update that included XML sitemaps into the core part of WordPress. This is something that previously you had to have a plugin to do, and XML sitemaps are very important for SEO or just letting Google find your website and all your content in general. WordPress also does a really good job of giving you a good URL structure. Most plugins give you mobile responsiveness, which is really good, so that your website looks good on a mobile phone or mobile device. They give you a really powerful tool for building out menus and categories and links so that you can build out the structure of your website, which is also very important for SEO. And most importantly, WordPress lets you create the content really easily. And of course, content is the most important thing for any website for SEO. And we'll get into some of that later as well. But can SEO in WordPress be improved? Yes, it can, as you will see. And I think as you probably, proof is in that there's so many SEO plugins out there that do so much for WordPress, which is really good. So that being said, first, I want to cover a few myths about SEO and a few myths about SEO in WordPress specifically. The first myth is that if you just install a plugin, then all of your content and all of your entire website will just rank on the first page of Google. A lot of people think, oh, if you just install like the Yoast plugin, for example, or another similar plugin, that you'll just be up there. So, oh, I installed this plugin, so why isn't my website ranking on the first page? The truth is that you have to have really good content in order to rank on Google, and that these plugins, they can help you, but they only do so much. And if you don't have good content, then they can't make the content for you. They can't build backlinks for you. They can't do the really hard work for you that it takes to do well with SEO. I know this because I've tried. As a developer myself, sometimes my first instinct was to always just maybe write some code. If I can just write this little piece of code or install this other plugin, and maybe try to take the easy way out of doing the hard part of SEO, then my website would just rank #1. And that just doesn't happen. It never happens. The only way to really get yourself as doing well with SEO is to have really good content. You have to have good content first. The next myth is if you write a better post than the posts that are ranking above you, then you'll just reach the first page of Google, or you'll get up to be #1 in the search results. Writing good articles is extremely important, as I just said, but it's more than just having good content. You need to do lots of other things too. You need to have backlinks. You need to have lots of content around the same topic. Like this is known as, being an authority site or having authority on a topic. So you can't just write one post about a topic. You need to write lots of posts about the topic so that Google sort of sees you as the authority on whatever the topic is. You need to have internal links to the new post. And you also need a lot of patience, because when you write a post, sometimes it could take months or even a year for it to get on the first page of Google. And unfortunately, that's really frustrating for a lot of people, because they write a post and then 3 days later, they don't know why it's not on the first page. Unfortunately, it just takes a long time. Myth number 3, my website has lots of backlinks, so I should be ranking at the top. You do need a lot of backlinks in order to do well in SEO. But like I said before, there's many factors. You need good content. You need all those other things that I talked about before. So just having backlinks is not the answer. There are plugins that can sort of help you work out getting backlinks, but again, it's just they don't always do the work for you. You still have to do the work yourself. So the other point I want to make here is a lot of people say, well, I have lots of backlinks, but how many backlinks is a lot of backlinks? Some people say, well, I reached out and I got 5 backlinks, whereas other people are getting maybe hundreds or maybe thousands of backlinks. And the concept of having lots of backlinks is relative, and without using some sort of tool, we'll talk about some tools later, but without using some sort of tool, it can be really hard to know exactly how many backlinks you really need, especially when there's like a lot of other factors, which I mentioned earlier, good content, internal links, having authority. So the point here that I really want to make is that there's no just one factor that drives up your SEO. It's a combination of lots of different things, and that's what you have to keep in mind. And that's what actually a lot of these plugins will do, which we'll get to in a minute. So how do you rank higher on Google? You need lots of content, and the content should answer the user's query or question. When you think about it, every Google search is essentially a question. Even if the person only types in one word, like if they type in the word dishwasher, what they're really looking for there, what they're really asking is, hey, I need a dishwasher, or where can I find a dishwasher, or something like that. And your blog post or your article or your entire website should hopefully answer that question and answer that user's query. That's essentially how you get to be on the first page of Google, is by answering that specific question and providing the user with an answer. The title and header tags need to be relevant to the query, as does the entire content, all the paragraphs of text that you write. Having lots of backlinks helps. Having lots of internal links to the article helps. Google is kind of a popularity contest, so having links lets Google know that your website is better than other people's websites, because other human beings have linked to it and have said, this is the best website, or this is the best page that answers that question, right? You can control a lot of this in WordPress, but again, the plugins can't do everything for you. We'll get to that in a minute. I know I'm repeating that over and over again, because I really want to enforce that having good content and doing the hard part yourself is kind of the way you do well in SEO, and not necessarily like having the plugin do all the work for you, right? Most importantly, SEO is a long-term strategy. Nothing happens overnight. Like I said before, it takes months for pages to rank. It takes a long time to write content. It takes a long time to get the content, highly ranked up on Google. So this is not a get rich quick scheme, right? A lot of people think they just put up a website and write a bunch of content and get some links and it happens really fast, but that's not true at all. My wife and I have been doing our website for 10 years and it's just now kind of getting to the point where we can really say we've been successful. So SEO, long-term strategy for sure. So I just want to define a few things here. If you start diving into SEO research and some of the SEO blogs that are out there, you'll probably see these two things talked about a lot. On-site SEO versus off-site SEO. Essentially, on-site is everything that you do on your own site. This is things like the XML sitemap, internal links, your title tags, your meta tags, your schema markup to get rich snippets, the things you do to make your website fast, your theme, the plugins you install, all the code that's on your own website. Whereas offsite SEO are things that you do that are not on your website, but maybe on somebody else's website, or maybe social media and other marketing channels that you might use. Backlinks are very important. Everything you do with offsite SEO kind of essentially revolves around getting more links to your website, because when you reach out to other people to get backlinks in different ways, such as with guest posting, or even when you advertise on social media, yeah, social media is a way to get traffic on its own. But in a lot of ways, from an SEO standpoint, social media is about kind of getting backlinks. It's debatable whether or not social media channels such as Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or anything like that actually gives you link juice, but it's definitely true that it gets your name out there and maybe somebody else will link to it. If they see your link or your post, then maybe they'll link to it. So I'm not saying you shouldn't do social media marketing, because you should, but in a way it can sort of help from a secondhand point of view with your SEO and just all general marketing and outreach that you do. From an SEO standpoint, getting as many links as possible is always good for your offsite SEO. Now, since we're talking about WordPress, we're going to be talking, everything we're going to talk about from now on is on-site SEO. These are all things that you do on your own website. So just a few definitions here. XML sitemaps, we'll get into some of this in a little bit, but they tell Google where your content can be found. Your title, meta, and header tags tell Google what your content is about. Internal links and breadcrumbs tell Google what's relevant to the content, because if you link certain topics together, this tells Google that all these pages are related in some form or another, or at least that's the ideal scenario. Schema markup is relatively new in the last couple of years. This helps you get rich snippets. We'll get into some of that in a minute too. And of course, you probably heard of alt text in an image. That tells Google what an image is all about. A lot of people leave alt text blank, and it's not something you should do. You should definitely fill in the alt text, because that can help you with an image search. So an XML sitemap, this is something that's new in Google Core. Before you needed a plugin for this. It's essentially a type of code. It's kind of hard sometimes for a human to read it, but Google and other machine programs can read it very well. It's essentially just a language that tells Google where all your posts live. And that's really important, because as soon as you publish a post, WordPress will update your XML sitemap, and then Google will read it periodically and then see, oh, you've published a new post. So, and schema markup and rich snippets. So schema markup is essentially a new type of code structure that you can embed within your posts. Plugins will do this if you don't want to get into the nitty gritty of the code yourself. And they make it so that Google can find out how your content is structured. So for example, if you have a recipe, or if you have an event, or different types of articles might have different structures about them. And then Google will show in different formats. Maybe it's in a rich snippet, like the featured snippet at the top of search results, or down below, you can see the examples here, like a recipe might have a rating, and you can actually often see the steps of a recipe on the first page of Google. If you have a recipe that follows the rich snippet structure, you can see event information like dates and times of events and things like that. This can be a really powerful tool to help people click on your website or to get the information they need that will drive more traffic. It's sort of like a competition kind of thing, where if your link on the first page of Google looks better than other pages' links, then maybe people are more tempted to click on it. That being said, just because you use schema markup and get a rich snippet does not mean that you'll be on the first page of Google. So there's a lot of debate there about whether or not this helps you rank, but definitely helps you get more clicks, I think, in my own experience. So let's talk about links real quick. Sometimes people get confused with all these words talking about links. Internal links are links within your own website. So one of your posts linking to another one of your posts. Backlinks are links from other websites to your website. And external links are links from your own posts that link out to other websites. So if you're reading a lot of SEO blogs and trying to do your own research, you'll see people refer to these terms, and sometimes it gets a little confusing, especially backlinks and external links. So I just wanted to clarify that so that you guys understand like what people are talking about as maybe you do further research into SEO. Like I said, backlinks are really important. Getting other people to link to your website is really important. But we're going to talk about internal links a lot in a little bit as well, because they can be very important, be a very powerful tool that you can control yourself to hopefully boost up different pages on your site. Okay, so let's get into the good stuff, the SEO plugins. I'm sure if you've tried to dive into SEO in WordPress, you've heard of Yoast. Yoast has been the most popular SEO plugin for a variety of reasons. First of all, it was one of the first plugins to do a little bit of everything all in one plugin. And that's kind of what it does. It lets you edit your title tags, your meta tags, your description tags, your social media images. It does image redirects. It can do schema markup. You can stick a keyword in there and it can tell you if your post does well with that keyword and things like that. It has this concept of the green light. I'm sure a lot of people have seen that, where when you write up something, you write up a blog post and it tells you, it either gives you a red, yellow, or green light, kind of like a traffic light. And if it fits in with a certain algorithm, then you get the green light, right? So these are all things that have driven Yoast to be one of the most popular plugins, probably the most popular plugin out there for SEO. But honestly, I don't know if it really should be, because a lot of other plugins are coming up behind it and doing some really amazing things. Also, Yoast now has a pro plan, and I'll talk about that in a second, but the pro plan, or the paid premium plan, it costs money and it does a lot of good things, but you might not need it and you might need it. But some of those features in that paid plan are free in other plugins, which we'll talk about in a minute. One myth that I do want to talk about is this idea of the green light. I've seen a lot of people post on the different, Facebook groups and SEO forums and stuff that, I got the green light. I wrote a post and Yoast gave me the green light. So why isn't it ranking on the first page of Google, or why isn't it ranking #1? You need to understand that this green light really is just a quick computer algorithm that says, okay, you're using the keyword in your title, you're using the keyword in your headers, you're using the keyword, 8% of the time, or whatever percent of the time throughout your post. You have an image and you have some other media in there. And if you sort of like check those boxes, then you'll get the green light. And while you should generally try to check those boxes, that doesn't mean that you're going to rank #1 in Google, because like I said before, there's so many factors. And it also doesn't mean that your content is really good, because you can write really bad content that still checks all the boxes and gives you a green light. And you don't necessarily, want to have bad content just because it checks all the boxes. I've ranked posts #1 that have gotten a red light before. And I've written plenty of posts that have gotten the green light that have done very poorly. So use the green light as a guide, as a suggestion, but not as like the Bible as to whether or not your post is going to rank. Again, these plugins are kind of meant to be sort of tools of convenience, right? So the Yoast premium plan, should you use this? I mean, I don't know. A lot of people say everybody should, but a lot of people say nobody should. I think I'm going to actually suggest another plugin in a minute. The premium or paid version of Yoast gives you the ability to add multiple keywords to a post. And all that really does is just sort of check that you're sort of using that keyword throughout your post. It doesn't actually do anything for Google. A lot of people think they put the keyword in there and now that their post will rank for that keyword, but that's not how it works. The keyword that you stick into Yoast and the keyword that you stick into some of the other plugins I'll talk about in a minute is really just to have the algorithm check the keyword against your content to see if you're using it enough or not. The premium version of Yoast gives you more schema.org, more schema-rich snippet options, like if you have a recipe blog or different types of content, events and things like that. You should probably only really use this if you have a type of site that would need one of these rich snippets. It gives you better social media previews. It gives you more internal link suggestions. It gives you a redirect manager. There's actually free plugins for all those things, so you don't necessarily need to pay for the Yoast plugin. I actually don't recommend Yoast at all. I actually recommend this other plugin called Rank Math. Rank Math does pretty much everything Yoast does. It just, in my opinion, it does it either better or the features are free. It's fairly new. I think this is going to be the #1 SEO plugin maybe in a couple of years, mainly because it's doing an amazing job with features and ease of use. It's really easy to use. It does basically all the same things that Yoast does. I just think it does them in a more easy to use way. It does them better. And some of the features it gives you are free, whereas Yoast makes you pay for them. One of those features is the ability to have multiple keywords that it kind of tests you against in your post. You can see in my little screenshot here on the right, the focus keyword there in the middle, I've written Paris, and then the other one I've written Eiffel Tower. And you can see it gives you I've got the score there up to the top of 76 out of 100. So it's giving me a yellow score instead of a green score. It's kind of the same idea as Yoast's red, yellow, green traffic light system. It's basically the same idea. Where it sort of runs you through a checklist. You can kind of see there at the bottom of the screenshot. It says, hey, you're using your focus keyword in the title. That's good. Again, it's running you through an algorithm. This is not something that's just going to immediately make you rank for that keyword. You have to sort of do that work yourself and do the idea of coming up with all the good content yourself. That being said, this is a really great plugin because the developers are working on this a lot. They are soon coming out with a premium version. Right now, everything is free and everything you get in this plugin is free. But they are coming out with a premium version, a paid version sometime in the next few months. They have yet to announce what will actually be in there, but they've hinted that there's probably going to be a few more schema markup, rich snippet options and things like that, kind of the similar stuff that you see in Yoast. That being said, everything in here, all the features that you see on the plugin now are free. And so that's really great. And there's a lot of free things in there that, like I said, that Yoast makes you pay for. So I really recommend this one. It also can import all your data from Yoast if you're already using Yoast. There's a lot of other sort of quote do everything SEO plugins that are where the plugin basically has a whole bunch of tools just like Yoast and Rank Math. All in one SEO pack, the SEO framework, Slim SEO. These all essentially do the same thing. So if you're not happy with Yoast or Rank Math, there's lots of other options out there. You can check them out, try them out all you want. They all kind of do similar things, right? So if you don't want to have one of those all-in-one plugins, you can try to sort of do it piecemeal. There's a lot of little plugins out there. And often, like if you find that one of those other plugins has a paid version, such as Yoast, that makes you pay for a particular feature, you can probably find a small free plugin that might do that feature for you. I know there's a lot of schema markup rich snippet plugins out there that might fulfill your need if you don't want to pay for Yoast. But for example, if you just want a plugin that lets you modify the title tag for SEO purposes or manage your meta tags or something like that, there's a bunch of little plugins out there. If you have a new site and or even like a mid-level site where you're growing, if you don't have sort of that niche need for one of these specific small plugins, I would recommend that you go ahead and use like one of the do everything plugins, such as Rank Math. I think everything that Rank Math gives you, and Yoast as well, is really great. It scans your website, tells you what to do. It tells you how to configure your website better. Whereas some of these smaller plugins, they're not going to give you that sort of that all-in-one package that those big plugins do. So that's what I would recommend if you have a new site. If you're starting with a brand new site, yeah, just install Rank Math and then do what it says, follow its suggestions as you write some really good content. Okay, internal link building. Internal links essentially let you build authority around particular topics. So let's say, this is travel. So we're talking about, let's use an example of Paris, for example. Maybe I have a post about Paris, and then I write another post about Paris, and then another post about Paris. I want all these posts to link together so that I can sort of build authority around the topic of Paris, because maybe I have something about hotels or something about restaurants and something about activities and tours and things to do and things like that, right? So I want to have all my Paris posts linked together. Well, these links will be known as internal links, and they let Google know that all these links, that all these posts are related, And one way to do that is through categories or tags, because we can have like we could have the category of Paris, where everything in Paris would show up on your category page, for example. But ideally what we want is to have links within the content. This lets Google know that particular concepts are related. So if I'm talking about hotels in Paris, and then maybe I mention restaurants in Paris, well, the term restaurants in Paris is a perfect place to link to a blog post about restaurants in Paris. And that lets Google know not just that other post exists, but that other post is about the words in the link, because the words in the link are a big indicator to Google that the other post is about this particular topic with these particular keywords. Right. So there's a number of plugins to help with all this. There's one called YARP, or Yet Another Related Post plugin. This essentially puts links at the bottom of a post. It's really easy to use. You can configure it by categories or tags. So if you tag all your posts with Paris, then it will show, all the links to other Paris posts and things like that. There's another one called Inline Related Posts, which I really like. It makes links that look like this one, like this yellow link here. You can configure the colors and everything like that. And so it makes it a nice, good call out, not just for Google, but for actual human beings reading your post to say, oh, if you like this post about Paris, then it'll automatically pull up links to your other posts within the same category, or that have the same tags or some combination thereof. So that's a really nice way to say, hey, look, there's some stuff that you might want to read here. There are others too. I'm a big fan of automation because, I'm a computer programmer by trade. So automation is something that I always look for, so that you have to do like less manual work. And there's some plugins that let you kind of automatically create internal links. Internal Links Juicer, Internal Links Manager, Link Whisper, and SEO Smart Links. They all four of these plugins, and there's a few others out there, but all four of these plugins essentially do the same thing, where you basically set a keyword, like say the word is Paris, and anytime in one of your posts, if WordPress sees the word Paris, then it will automatically make a link to a post about Paris on your site. And so what you can do is basically insert a whole bunch of keywords with their related posts on your site, and then it will automatically fill in a bunch of internal links for you. And there's usually a bunch of sort of like rules and settings around these plugins so that you don't have too many links, right? You don't want every other word to be a link, but maybe if you have a handful of links throughout your posts, they're all related to similar things based on the keywords, then you can imagine the power here. If you have 100 posts, you don't have to do this manually. You can essentially just turn on these plugins, add all the keywords in, and then WordPress will just sort of fill in the links for you. So all of a sudden, every post has maybe 3 to 5 internal links going to other posts. And then you create this giant spider web of links, right? Where all these posts are linked together. In my experience, I've seen posts do much better on Google after creating a bunch of internal links to them. I've had posts that I created maybe like one link to it, like in a category or a menu or something, and it did okay or not so well on Google search results. And then I've added like 10 or even 15 or 20 internal links from the rest of the website to that one post. And that sort of says to Google, hey, this post is important. And this post is about these topics, because those keywords in the link are important too. And I've seen that post go up in the rankings, often to the first page. So internal links can be a really powerful tool. I think it's one of the most underrated tools in SEO. I think it's not quite as powerful as backlinks from other websites, but it is a really important tool, and you can kind of see significant improvement if you are trying to get one or two particular posts to go up, and you make all of your other posts link to them to say, hey, this is an important post, especially if those links are relevant about the topic. That can be a really powerful tool. Now, if you do this with all of your posts, then Google kind of sees them all as even or equal, right? Or on the same level. And so it's not going to work if you just link to all of them. You have to sort of pick and choose. You have to sort of think about that concept of like a piece of cornerstone content, or a content silo, or an authority page, or something like that. There's a lot of terms to describe the same content. It's the same concept of where you have an item of content that is sort of seen as the important piece of content for that particular topic, right? Internal links are a great way to build that concept. All right, so real quick, I want to talk about website speed. A lot of people say that website speed is extremely important for SEO. Website speed can be important for SEO. I see a lot of people on some of these new blogger groups on Facebook and things like that really diving into website speed and trying to make their speed get faster. I've seen a lot of people get really frustrated though, because they write 5 or 10 posts and then they say, oh, I need to spend a lot of time on my website speed. And then they spend maybe like a month working on it, or they even hire somebody to work on it. They pay a lot of money to have somebody work on their website speed. Whereas the truth is, what you really need to do is focus on more content. I don't think you should really look at website speed unless you have a much larger website that is doing much better from a traffic standpoint. If your website speed is kind of in the middle, then you're going to be okay until you create a lot more content. The best way to get better rankings on Google is to create more content. I've seen too many people bang their head against the wall with speed when they should be focusing on content. That being said, once you have sort of a mid-level blog with a lot more posts and things like that, you can start to focus on speed. Speed is important for SEO, but it's not the only factor. And I see so many people just focusing on speed when they need to focus on content. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say. There are some good plugins out there that you can install that will help boost your speed. We'll talk about some in a minute. Your theme can impact your speed more than you realize. Some themes have just so much code and so much bloated extra stuff with them that it really can slow down your site. If you Google, WordPress themes that are faster, or that with faster page loading speed and things like that, you'll get some good suggestions. There are some plugins which can slow down your site, especially plugins which load stuff onto the published side of WordPress. Not the plugins that load into the dashboard, but the plugins that actually show things out on the front of your page. That some of those can slow down your site. Your web host and your server might be affecting your speed. If you went with a really cheap budget server plan, then your website is probably on the same server as like 5,000 other websites, and this can be a little slow. If you upgrade your hosting plan, sometimes you should probably do some research into this as to which hosting plan you're using, but often basically if the computer your website is on is faster, then it will often load faster, which can help your speed. You can test your page speed using Google's Page Speed Insights website or GTmetrix. There's a few others out there. Kind of just test with all of them, see what they say. Most of these websites give you suggestions as to how to improve your site speed. A lot of those suggestions are quite technical, so you might need to ask for help or something like that. But sometimes just switching out and experimenting with different themes can help. Website speed plugins. So there's a few out there that can really help. WP Super Cache, perhaps the easiest thing you can install. It basically makes your pages load faster by caching them on the server. Because essentially what happens in WordPress is when somebody visits your website, if they visit a particular post, the WordPress system goes back to the database, grabs all the content, shoves that content into a template, and then publishes that template instantaneously to the user who just requested it. And so this is kind of a slow process, and it happens over and over again the more traffic you get. So basically what the Super Cache plugin does is the first time somebody loads the page, it generates the entire web page and saves it on the server, so that the next person and the next 5,000 people that visit, they just get the quick already generated version of the page. And it can also squish up some of the other code that's on the page so that it loads faster as well. And just by installing this one plugin, you can see significant improvements really quickly. So I recommend you do that. There's a few other plugins, Auto Optimize and Async JavaScript, that can speed up your site. Again, if you're a new blogger, just installing these plugins can make a significant difference. If you're like a mid-level blogger, that I still recommend you focus on content. Content is the #1 thing that you can add to your site to get better SEO rankings. So yeah, spend some time with speed. Don't bang your head against the wall. Don't spend too much time, or you're wasting your time when you should be adding more content. But yeah, install these plugins and you should see some improvement. Don't focus on too much speed until later. So that being said, a CDN, you've probably heard of this too. This can help your website speed. A CDN is basically a content delivery network. And so what this does is essentially, I've got an image here. Instead of your website being on one server, essentially what it does is it pushes your website out to servers around the world, so that if somebody on the other side of the world visits your website, the connection doesn't have to go all the way back around the world, get the website, and then push it all the way back to them. Instead, it finds a server that's a lot closer. And so in theory, this gives you a much faster connection and a much faster page loading speed for that particular user. I only recommend this for larger, well-established websites. And why is that? Well, one, Sometimes these CDNs, they're not free. Sometimes they're not always faster because there's a lot of companies out there that kind of do some shady stuff and they charge you money, but don't always deliver on their promises. I've also seen a whole lot of people with a whole lot of problems and broken websites and long calls with tech support and people whose websites just don't work for months at a time because they tried to install a CDN. It can be a bit of a technical hurdle unless you hire somebody to do it for you. And even if you hire somebody to do it for you, the results are not always good. So in theory, a CDN is a great thing to do. In practice, it can cause a lot of problems. So this is something else where I suggest more content instead of spending a whole lot of time on this. If you have a mid-level to high-level website, look into it. But if you have a new website, don't bother with this until much later in your blogging career, okay? This is one of those things where you might bite off more than you can chew, and it can lead to a lot of problems and a lot of headaches. So WordPress SEO, in summary, focus on content, focus on getting backlinks. I suggest everybody install Rank Math if they're not already using a plugin that they're happy with. Look into creating internal links, especially internal links around a page that you want to rank well as like an authority page. Install the basic speed plugins. Again, focus on content. I mentioned that again because content is the most important thing. The technical stuff only gets you so far, right? So focusing on content is the best thing you can do. And I know that I might sound like I'm beating a dead horse there and repeating myself over and over again, but I've seen so many new bloggers and I've seen so many new website creators, whether they're a new blogger or whether they're like me, like a computer programmer or a software developer. A lot of people try to take sort of the shortcuts. They think, oh, I can just install a plugin or I can use some sort of code or programming to get my rankings higher on Google. It does not work like that. Trust me, I've done it. I've been there. I've seen a lot of other people try to do it. The real way to do well on SEO is to put in the work of doing research into good content and good keywords, right? And I think any SEO expert will tell you that. There's no shortcuts to getting #1 on Google. All right, so now we're gonna switch gears a little bit and talk about affiliate marketing in WordPress. First, just like we had a few myths about SEO, let's talk about some myths about affiliate marketing. If you just put affiliate links, first of all, I just want to make sure everybody understands what affiliate links are before we get started, just in case there's any beginners out there. You know, affiliate links are links where if you link from somebody clicks from your website to another website and then they purchase something, then you get some sort of commission, right? And so I think everybody knows what that is, given that this is the Travelpayouts Affiliate Summit, right? So that being said, affiliate marketing myths. If you just put some links on your website, on your pages, then you'll make money because people will click and then they'll buy stuff, right? Yes, while it is easy to put the links on your pages, it's not always easy to make money from them because you know, not every individual consumer out there, every individual visitor to your website is interested in purchasing something. And so we'll talk about some strategies for maximizing that in a little bit. Or another myth is just use Amazon because it's the largest program out there in the world and it's the easiest to use because you just put links to products that have to do with the topic of your pages. People will just buy stuff after clicking on your links, or affiliate marketing requires no effort at all, right? So I think that a lot of people get tempted into affiliate marketing because it seems like it requires no effort. It seems like you just have to put the links on there and that takes like 30 seconds to add a few links here and there, especially with some of the tools I'm going to show you in a minute. But you actually do need to do some work and some research and put some thought into it around the content if you want to do well with it. The truth is, you need to figure out what motivates buyers around a particular product or service and then plan accordingly for your content. You need to align your affiliate programs with your content, and you need to align your content with your affiliate programs. In my opinion, SEO is the best way to attract motivated visitors, but it's not the only way. Plenty of people use social media, plenty of people use email newsletters or other types of things. But for my thoughts, you know, we've done well with SEO, and it's mainly because of this. If you have a blog post about dishwashers and you post that on Facebook to your audience, even if you have 100,000 people liking your page on Facebook and they see something about a dishwasher. Well, if they're not interested in buying a dishwasher right there, then they're probably just going to scroll on through and not ever click your link, right? But the person who's interested in buying a dishwasher, that person is going to Google dishwashers. And so somebody who Googles dishwashers is going to be in the mindset to actually purchase a dishwasher. And so if they land on your page through SEO, then you're much more likely to get a conversion or a purchase from that link. And that's why I think SEO is the better way, because people who are in the mindset to buy something are the people who are Googling things. Affiliate marketing is kind of like dependent on a lot of traffic sometimes, because it's often about sort of statistics and playing the odds. Like to earn a commission, you may get 100 or 1,000 people to visit your page, but only a certain percentage of those are going to click the link. And then only a certain percentage of those people are going to buy something. So I've got an example here. If 100 people visit your page and 20% click a link, so that's 20 people, and 20% of those people actually buy something. So now that's 4 people. And if your average commission is about $10, depending on kind of what you're selling, that's $40, right? Well, so you basically made $40 off of 100 people. But $40, you know, if you're a new blogger, might seem like, wow, I made $40 and I just put some links on my site. But $40 is not really enough to make a living, right? If you want to make a living, you need to get your money up into hundreds and thousands of dollars a month, right? And so that means you need lots of traffic, right? In order to sort of play those odds. And you either need lots of traffic or a large social media following that converts well, or a large email newsletter following that converts well too. But that being said, if you do have a lot of traffic, it can be easy to capitalize on it. And if you play the SEO game well, then you can capitalize on your traffic well also. Click-through rates, also seen, if you look at a lot of like SEO blogs, you'll see the concept of CTR, that means click-through rate. And purchasing rates, also referred to as conversions, can vary greatly depending on your website, how you get your traffic, the products you sell, and things like that. Just thinking about the travel industry, you know, long-term tours, like there's a lot of companies out there that, you know, you've heard of Trafalgar and G Adventures and these tour companies where, you know, you book a 7-day or a 14-day tour, things like that. Those tours are really expensive. So if you think about a family of 3 and each person is going to pay $3,000 to $4,000 for a tour, you're looking at like a $10,000 package. Not as many people are going to purchase that. But if they do purchase that, then maybe you get a big commission, right? On the flip side, hotels and flights, well, every time somebody travels, they're going to book a hotel or flight. So the conversion rates for those are a lot higher, but the commissions are a lot lower because there's like a much higher volume there. So these are all kind of things to think about, is like, as you sort of plan your content and plan your structure of like all your affiliate programs, is who's booking, how many bookings do you think you might get based on the amount of traffic you get, and what kind of programs do you want to use on your site based on your audience and your traffic. My website, you know, Laurie and I's website personally has often catered to budget travelers. So we kind of look into low cost things, mainly because we know our audience is interested in low cost types of things. Whereas if we put like luxurious tours on our website, our audience would not resonate with that. They would probably not book that, right? Whereas if you had a luxury travel blog, maybe your audience would do that. But if you put links to, say, hostels on your luxury travel blog, your audience probably would not like that and would not book that kind of thing, right? So it just depends on your audience and what you're going for. So let's talk about some affiliate marketing plugins. There's 2 particular plugins. They kind of do the same thing that I really like. Easy affiliate links is one, and thirsty affiliates is another. Essentially what these do is they help you organize all of your affiliate links. This is a screenshot of easy affiliate links, by the way. Basically what you do is you click the link and you create a link. You stick in your affiliate link, and then what it can do is it has a number of options. It can cloak the affiliate link or not. It can open the link in a new tab. It can mark it as rel equals sponsored, which you've probably heard is important for a lot of affiliate links these days, depending on, you know, which SEO rules you're following. But generally what it does is it helps you organize it. And also what it can do is it can, you can tag it with a keyword. So like, again, tagging something with Paris, for example, maybe you want the affiliate links to be automatically included through your post. So anytime it sees the word Paris, it might link out to a particular hotel in Paris or something like that, right? So this is also useful because like that example with a hotel in Paris, maybe if you want to suggest a different hotel in Paris, you can just come into this tool and change the link in one place. And then that link will be changed everywhere in your website. So it can really help you kind of like manage the links if you need to change them out. Like if you change from one hotel booking program to another hotel booking program, you want to keep the same hotels, but you want to switch them to a different website, like maybe go from booking.com to hotels.com or something like that. You can just switch them here in one place. And then everywhere in your website, all the links will update automatically. They also let you import and export with spreadsheets, which can be really helpful if you have hundreds of affiliate links that you want to add in, right? So there's lots of useful tools in these two programs. Both of these plugins have paid premium versions, whatever you want to call it, that you have to pay extra for. You know, you can look at those and use them if you want. I think just getting started with the free version of either one is a really good idea. For you guys listening, the Thirsty Affiliates people have given us a discount code. If you use the code Travelpayouts by October 18th, you can have a $60 discount on the pro version, the premium version of the Thirsty Affiliates plugin. So that's something they've done that's nice for us and for our listeners. There's lots more affiliate marketing related plugins out there. Of course, Travelpayouts has a plugin which lets you add lots of different links and widgets. Get Your Guide has a really cool WordPress plugin that adds a widget. You've probably seen the Get Your Guide widgets in there where it shows different tours related to whatever keyword you want. So if you put Paris, it'll show you Paris tours, things like that. There's a lot of plugins for Amazon, for example, and various other like big kind of popular affiliate programs. That being said, outside of WordPress plugins, I'm sure you've seen all the widgets that are out there. A lot of companies have widgets that you can easily insert into your content editor. So sometimes you don't even really need an actual plugin in WordPress. You can just copy and paste the code. That being said, I think there's a lot of debate out there as to whether a widget is better or whether an inline link in the text of your content is better. I think that that's something that everybody should test for themselves, because personally, I've seen a lot of blog posts that are written in a certain way do well with inline links. And I've seen a lot of other blog posts or a lot of other pages that do well with widgets. I think it depends on the format. It depends on the type of people the type of audience that's coming in to look at it, how you acquire the audience, like through SEO or other means. So this is something you should all test with your own audience. It doesn't hurt to try both, but make sure if you can, a lot of the affiliate programs let you tag your links with some sort of code at the end to say, okay, well, this link to a hotel came from, link number 5, and this one came from link number 7, and to see like, well, which one did better with my audience, which one got more clicks and which one got more conversions. And so you can do a little test like that. A few more essential plugins. Google Analytics. I'm sure by now, everybody who's got a website knows what Google Analytics is. If you don't, you really should. It lets you track your traffic. It lets you track where your traffic is coming from. If you can't measure your traffic, then you don't know what's working well and what's not working well. You need to understand the growth of your website, the growth of individual pages, where your traffic for individual pages is coming from, whether it's coming from Google or social media or whatnot. You can see which pages are doing well and which pages are doing poorly, or maybe which pages you need to kind of boost, right? There's a lot of plugins that can let you use Google Analytics directly in WordPress. Some of the plugins are really basic and they let you just stick the Google Analytics code into your website so that you can track it and then go to the Google Analytics website to look at all the charts and graphs, right? But some of them like Monster Insights and Analytify, they actually import the graphs directly into your WordPress dashboard. So maybe this is something you want to use to look at your traffic within WordPress. Some of those other plugins too, like Monster Insights, they let you track outbound clicks. So if you want to see how many people are clicking out from your website, say to an affiliate marketing link or something like that, you can set those events up as well. If you don't use a plugin for this, then you're looking at using custom code. And if you're not a programmer, that can be really tricky to do. So it can be a really useful tool to use something like that to see how many people are clicking out, to try to figure out how many clicks you're getting for each affiliate link and things like that. The redirection plugin, this is really powerful. This is kind of a behind the scenes thing. Basically what this plugin does, and by the way, this functionality exists in Rank Math already and some of the other all-in-one SEO plugins. But basically what redirection can do is it can basically set up redirects automatically from one page to another page. It can find broken links on your site and then redirect them. It can find 404s, which are like errors. So if somebody comes into your website and they think a post is going to be there, maybe you moved a post or deleted a post, then that person would get a 404 error or a page not found error. Well, the redirection plugin can find that, see it, and then you could redirect that URL to another related post. So if you deleted one of your Paris posts, it could automatically redirect to one of your other Paris posts, for example. You could do a site-wide redirect. You know, a lot of people talk about the best URL structure. A lot of times when new bloggers start their site, they leave the dates, like where their post has like the year / the month / and then the title of their post. And then they decide to get rid of the year and the month. Well, this requires a lot of redirects, but the redirection plugin can handle that for you automatically, so that that whole process can take like 3 minutes instead of hours and hours, right? Like I said, Yoast and Rank Math. Yoast does this in its premium version. Rank Math does this for free. If you don't want to use those plugins and just want to use this, it's really powerful and easy to use. I think I've had sites where I've had both things set up because the redirection plugin actually has a number of really good tools that some of the SEO plugins don't always have, but it's really powerful. Ad Inserter and Advanced Ads, those are two different plugins that essentially do the same thing. Basically what they let you do is insert code snippets throughout your blog posts. And of course, those code snippets are most useful for inserting ads. A lot of ad programs these days, they have setups where they can kind of you just put one thing of code on your page and then they take over and they insert the ads automatically based on what their algorithms decide. If you're doing that, then you don't need one of these plugins. But if you want to place the ads manually in specific places throughout your website, then you should probably use one of these plugins because it makes it really easy. So basically what you do is you just go into the dashboard of this plugin and you say, okay, I want to create a new ad, and you stick in the ad code, and then you can stick that ad code anywhere you want. But often they also have tools to say, okay, I want to use some rules here and say on my blog post, after every 5th paragraph, I want to stick an ad, or I want to stick, and sometimes the rules can get a little more complicated, like after every 5th paragraph, that's not an image, so that you don't have an ad right next to an image, or you don't have an ad right after a header, so you don't have that weird situation where you have a header and then an ad and then a paragraph. And so the rules can get really complex and really nice and convenient for you. I think that this is a great idea. Anybody who's using ads and who wants to kind of control their ads, both of these plugins are really well done. Security basics. I just wanted to mention some stuff about security because a lot of people do sometimes, unfortunately, get hacked. They get their WordPress website or hacked, or their backend hacked or something like that. WordPress is the most popular web publishing platform on the internet. And so that means it's the #1 target for any hacker, because if an exploit is found, any hacker can basically say, okay, well now there's literally 10 million websites that I know how to hack because we found this one exploit, right? So in order to prevent that from happening to you, always keep your WordPress version updated to the newest version. There's really no reason not to. A lot of times people think, oh, well, I want to keep this old version because it has this feature. All those features exist in the new versions too. Always keep your plugins and your themes updated. Delete the themes and the plugins that are not being used. So it's not just enough to turn them off or to deactivate them. If you think you're just done with a plugin or theme completely, just delete it entirely. It used to be that you had to go into your control panel or whatnot to delete those plugins and themes, but you don't have to do that anymore. Now it's just all through WordPress. You'll see the little red delete link. So it's super easy to do. Use the WordFence plugin. It's a really cool plugin that kind of monitors the security on your site. Sometimes it can provide you with some really sort of scary warnings. Don't be scared by it. Just know that, a lot of times WordFence is doing what it's supposed to do, right? Also, WordPress has a built-in site health page. You should check that out every now and then, especially through some of the security stuff that's on there, and do what it tells you to do. Akismet is a great plugin to manage spam comments. Spam isn't always like, just because somebody posts spam, it doesn't mean they're trying to hack into your site. Basically, they're just trying to get a link from your site to their site. But Akismet is a great way to filter out a lot of those spam comments, especially because a lot of them are kind of seedy and have foul language or other topics that you don't want on your website, right? One of the biggest things that you can do is to never let anybody have an account on your WordPress, admin page unless you know them personally. A lot of times people will give accounts to guest bloggers, so that the guest blogger can come in and post the guest blog post automatically without you having to deal with it. I don't recommend you do this at all unless that person's a good friend of yours. Too many times, the guest bloggers are just, and I'm not saying all guest bloggers do this. This is probably a 0.01% of the time situation, but sometimes there are seedy people out there who are just trying to get in to hack your website, right? So just have the person send you the guest post in a Google Doc or a Word doc or something and post it yourself, right? Just eliminate the possibility of somebody hacking into your website. And also if there's more accounts created out there, somebody might be able to figure out that guest blogger's username and password. And so it's one less account that somebody could try to figure out, right? Make sure your web host is doing regular backups or do them yourself because you want to have a backup in case something bad happens. Most web hosts do backups like every 24 hours or at least once a week. They back up your database and they back up your code, and that's good. So if something goes wrong, you just call them and tell them to restore the backup. Just do a little research into your hosting plan to see if they're doing this. If not, then ask them to do it or figure out a way to do it yourself. There's actually WordPress plugins that do this. I won't go into all the details, but you can do some research and figure it out if you need to. So marketing and promotion of your website in WordPress. Social media plugins. I'm sure that you're probably using a social media plugin, just like in the screenshot here. This one runs the icons down the left side of the screen. There's a million options for these, right? Going back to security, it seems like some social media plugins in the last few years have been the target of hackers. Do some research into the social media plugin you choose. Find out if it's been hacked lately. If that social media plugin has been hacked, this is a sign, not that there's a security problem, but it's rather a sign that the creators of that plugin are trying to do so much and they're writing so much code that maybe they don't need to. Maybe you just need a more simple social media plugin, because ultimately the code to load icons on the screen should not be so complicated that somebody should hack it. That's my opinion as a software developer, right? If somebody can hack it, it means that the code is really complicated and perhaps it's too complicated for just some social media icons. That being said, I like Sassy, Social Share, and Ultimately Social. There's also a lot of automated plugins like Blog to Social and Revive Old Post. And basically what they do is like Revive Old Post, like maybe once a week or however you set it up, it'll take an old post from the last year or 2 years or however much time you want, and it'll stick it up on your social media. So it's a good way to sort of get people re-engaged with older content that you may have. And it's a good way to not have to do all the manual work of posting to social media all the time because your system is automatically doing it for you. Email newsletter plugins. Email marketing is really powerful, especially if you can build like a good email newsletter list, a subscriber list. There's a whole bunch of services out there. I'm sure you've all heard of them. There's MailChimp and Constant Contact. And I mean, I can't even name them all because there's like probably a good dozen that all do really good things. But I wanted to sort of like name a few that are in WordPress that are pretty cool. There's one called the Newsletter Plugin, and there's another one called MailPoet. And basically what these do is they let you create the email newsletters within your WordPress system and then send out the emails. Both of these, in order for them to be really effective, if you have more than a couple hundred subscribers, you need to set them up with an external email service. Amazon Web Services has a really affordable email sending service, and MailPoet does too. So that these can actually be a lot more affordable than some of the email systems out there once you build up a large subscriber list. For example, I have about 15,000 subscribers on my email list, and I use the newsletter plugin, and it's really powerful. It lets you, do the drag and drop editor and everything, and section out your subscribers, just like a lot of the great tools out there do. But for about $50 a year, I pay for the paid version, which lets me send all my emails through Amazon's Web Services, and it's super cheap. So I can send 15,000 emails for about $1.50, and that's a crazy, much crazy lower price than say MailChimp and some of those other tools out there. That being said, enticing visitors to subscribe to your newsletter is really important. There's two really great WordPress plugins out there, Hustle and Opt-in Monster. You've probably seen some of these where you can design pop-ups, you can design footer bars, and you can design things in your sidebar widget and whatnot in order to entice people to subscribe. I highly recommend use one of those if you're trying to build up your newsletter subscribers. Check them out, they're pretty cool. So in summary, I just want to mention again that SEO is all about the content and more backlinks and content and patience. You got to have a lot of patience. And plugins can help you speed up the annoying tasks, but they can't do the hard work for you. Okay. You have to create good content, and you need to focus on affiliate programs that are right for your audience. Hopefully we covered that pretty well, and keep your audience coming back with newsletters and social media. So that pretty much covers it for me. We can see if we have time for some questions.
Yeah, thank you, Bryan. I think we ran out of time. I have just one question. Can we answer very quick, because this question was about the current situation. So the question was like this. I don't believe that the pandemic hasn't changed SEO for travel bloggers. It seems that your recommendations should work if there is no crisis in travel. Is there any advice for the current situation? Do you have a quick answer?
Yeah, I think that while like with our website, for example, the rankings haven't changed. I think the volume of people searching for travel is a lot less because people can't travel, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't still rank #1 and get good traffic. But I think that being said, a lot of people are looking for different things now. They're looking for local travel. They're looking for that weekend trip that they can take from their home city that's maybe just a couple of hours away instead of traveling around the world. So I think that's why the overall volumes of searches are down. For a lot of places, just because people can't go to those places unless you live nearby, right? So I think the whole concept of searching for a vacation near me is sort of the new trend for this year, and maybe the beginning of next year too.
Yeah, thank you, Bryan. We actually have some more questions, but since we ran out of time, I guess we prepare answers for them and send them by email. Is it okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to answer questions. And we'll figure out a way to get them all answered, either on Facebook or elsewhere.
Yeah, thank you a lot. Thank you a lot for your presentation, for your time. It was very informative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so now it's time for the next presentation. And Tristam Jarman will tell us how to compete against big players in SEO with small budget. And see you just in 1 minute. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. So now we have our next presentation. Tristam Jarman will tell us how to compete against big players in SEO with a small budget. Don't forget to ask your questions in the YouTube chat box. Don't forget to network in the Travel Affiliate Club on Facebook. And just listen to the presentation and let's communicate in the Q&A session after the Tristam's talk. So go ahead.
So, hey everyone, I'm Tristam Jarman, and today we are here to look at how to compete against big players in SEO with a small budget. So, quick rules of the session. So, this is a webinar that's being recorded. If you have any questions, ask them in the chat, and I will answer as many questions as possible for you guys. So, who am I? As we've briefly covered, I'm Tristam Jarman. I'm the co-founder of Purple Smudge digital marketing agency down here in semi-sunny Brighton today. A bit of rain as well. Hope you are all well where you're watching today. And I've been doing this for way more than 10 years. I need to update this information. My email address is tristam@purplesmudge.com, or hit me up on Twitter, where I'm most active at Tristam Jarman. So as I say, if there are any questions that I don't get to answer, please do hit me up afterwards. So why are we here today? That is a great question. A lot of small companies and businesses have come to the conclusion that SEO is no longer feasible in this day and age. And some people even believe that Google are favouring bigger brands and their businesses who are putting huge amounts of budget into their SEO efforts. And some believe it has become impossible to compete. But if you can look in the right place, there's always many opportunities that you can flourish in organic search. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to be looking at knowing your limits and identifying your strengths, how to fill the gaps, learning from your competitors, finding and fixing problems, creating a user-friendly website. We'll have a look at content and how to improve what you're doing, looking at how site speed kills your site, and more effectively, really, how slow site speed is possibly killing your site and how to improve that with minimal efforts. And then lastly, we'll be looking at how to focus on local SEO optimization to try and dominate local search. So let's jump in to know your limits. 2 seconds. So before we jump into any campaign or project, you should be asking a few questions to understand what your limits are. And sometimes working with smaller budgets can mean that you're having to compromise in areas. Small budgets can often mean a lack of time, resource, knowledge, and budget. So let's jump in and have a look at time. A lack of time in many cases is something that we're all dealing with in life, just not in SEO. If you're a small business or a one-person band, time and resource is something you simply don't have enough of, and you're likely to be limited by how much time you can dedicate to your SEO efforts every month. So look at where you can speed up processes, where you can automate particular areas such as periodical site crawls, which we'll cover a little bit further in this. Can you reach out to a freelancer where they can help free up time, or even look at skill swapping? Remember to plan. Planning and also sometimes time tracking will help you to see where to identify areas that you are sucking time. So let's have a look at resource. So, knowing your limits and a lack of resource. In many cases, it might be that you have less resource than the big guns. The bigger budgets, and therefore, the big guns might have more staff resources at their disposal. That being said, you will have the ability to change direction and make decisions faster than some of these larger competitors and companies, because you'll have less sign-off processes and hoops to jump through. So think about where your resource strengths and weaknesses are, and where you can work on capitalizing those. And next up, we're going to be looking at, knowing your limits in terms of knowledge. So in some cases, it can be a lack of knowledge that's holding you back. So whether that's a new area of SEO, such as running a technical SEO audit, doing better keyword research processes, or how to build links and work on your digital PR. So some great places to start looking to sort of bone up on your knowledge are, and this is an extensive list. This is just sort of off the top of my head for you guys to take a screenshot, or this presentation I believe is available afterwards, so you can always come to this page and click the links. But upskilling your knowledge can be done in a number of ways. So there are conferences. A lot have been online this year, such as this one. Brighton SEO is one of my favourite conferences, along with the one that we're at today. But being a Brightonian, I have much love for Brighton SEO, and that was actually last week, and that turned to be online. And then you'll see the second and third link under conferences. There's actually, I've sourced lists that other people have created of virtual summits and events. So, you know, first off, if you're looking to upskill your knowledge, I would attend, you know, a number of conferences and start to gain more skills and knowledge from experts presenting at these. There's a number of newsletters. One of my favorites is Mary Haynes' consulting newsletter. It's very in-depth, it's very thorough. There's a free and a paid-for version. I definitely think if you haven't signed up to it, you should do. It'll give you, you know, up-to-date search information. Her team worked tirelessly to put this newsletter out, so it's some very good information. And then jump on social media and see who you can connect with in the world of SEO. There's a few Twitter chats that I put a couple of hashtags for that I get involved in. Ecom chat is great. That's every Monday. And that talks about e-commerce chat. So, you know, get involved, follow that hashtag. Even if you don't want to get involved, it might just be good to sort of view these chats, and you never know, the topic that they might be covering might give you a huge amount of resource that you need. Then there's SEM Rush chat that's every week, and then there's PPC chat that happens. And there's many more hashtags that you can follow and chats you can get involved with. But I just thought I'd give you a couple that you can jump on. And then looking at webinars. So I've been involved with some webinars with Travelpayouts, doing the SEO traffic show, and I'm also involved with doing SEM Rush live webinars, along with a huge number of other people getting involved with webinars. But what's great is you can either be part of them live or part of them watching them back at your own leisure. But it's all free information and really good information. So I would take the opportunity to watch some of these webinars and bone up on your skills of, you know, trying to learn technical SEO or how to write better content, etc. And then here's a list of blogs that I've created for you. And these cover, you know, a wealth of SEO information and knowledge. And it's not limited to these, there are more, but I didn't want to overwhelm anyone. And then lastly, you've got online courses. So if you actually get hold of these links and click them, it will take you to the Udemy SEO page, the Skillshare SEO page, and the Lynda SEO page. And there's all courses on there on how to upskill your SEO knowledge. So hopefully that's given you a quick idea of where you can start upskilling your SEO knowledge. But if we then jump to having a look at budgets, so as discussed in the previous slide, I spoke about a lack of knowledge and how you can re-look at that when it comes to limited budgets and looking at skill swapping. But budgets can most definitely be seen as a hurdle when looking to compete against the big players in your space, you know, and as we said, this could be staff, resources and software. But, you know, looking at money for assets and a lack of money often means that you don't have the budget to work outside of your skill set. So if you want to plan outreach campaign, for example, you might feel you're being blocked by the cost of asset creation. You know, for instance, you might have felt a designer, a media producer, content manager would have been crucial to get your idea off the ground. So identifying what your SEO budget is and what it isn't, and translating that into what in terms of what your resources and knowledge are, will give you a good idea of what you should be prioritizing. It also helps you stop wandering down you know, a path that isn't really going to yield, you know, great results. And then, so if we have a look at identifying your strengths, so you might feel that you're at a disadvantage due to a lack of budget, but what you're already doing well. It could be that you're an absolute content machine. You love writing and producing content, or you're great at digital PR and building relationships and creating compelling stories. Or do you have access to a great developer? Looking at an element of work that comes easy to you, in your plan. That way you'll know that you're guaranteed to have some success with your efforts. And your brand might already be well known in your industry or local area, so you can look to capitalize on that fame and build backlinks and gain reviews. And also use your brand strength to your advantage. So start analyzing what you have available to you, audit your knowledge, skills, resources you can access, and this will help you to identify what you can prioritize. For instance, if you're limited on resources but have good relationships with local businesses, reach out to them. There might be some deals that could be made to your advantage. Another local company may swap their design skills for your SEO advice, or vice versa. It's worth exploring the support you can get outside of you and your team to build on that. And so how do we use pre-existing relationships to our advantage? So a great example is I recently did a webinar with Travelpayouts. It was the SEO traffic show. We've got another one tomorrow, so I believe we'll be popping some links into the chat over the course of this presentation. So if you want to be involved with that one tomorrow, please do. But one of the sites we looked at was a website on the area of Austin and what you can get up to in Austin, Texas. And they've created some great blog content. And when it comes to creating content such as this page, which is the top yoga spots in Austin, Texas, you may already have a relationship with local yoga centers as you're doing a write-up. You can get in contact with these yoga spots and let them know that you've written a piece of content and whether they would be interested in pushing this content through social media. Something like, we're delighted to be in the top yoga spots in Austin, Texas on this website. Secondary to that, though, is are there any key contacts at these companies that you're doing lists and guides for that can add further context to your content? So what I mean by that is either within the piece of content you're doing, or as a secondary piece, diving in deeper onto yoga, benefits of yoga, places to practice yoga outside in Austin. You see where I'm going with this. You can start to see how this initial relationship can grow and work as a mutually beneficial relationship. So also creating niche specific content that possibly the big players aren't. Possibly they're not creating that content as they're not such bigger traffic driving terms. Could you also do interviews with any other companies that you have pre-existing relationships with? Be a travel guide writer for websites you feature, be that go-to person, make yourself a trusted authority in your space. So how are we going to fill the gaps when we look at things like budgets? So as Wu-Tang says, and as you might feel, cash rules everything around me. But you might be thinking that budgets are one of the reasons the big players are ahead. But did you know there's a wealth of software and information and data out there that can be accessed for cheaper than you might think, and in a lot of cases, free. So sometimes it's not how much information and data you have, it's what you do with it. If budgets are an issue, there are many ways you can use cheaper or sometimes free tools to help you accomplish what you need. What I mean by that is this slide that I put together. So here's a list of free tools I've compiled. This isn't an ultimate list by any means. There are many more, but I thought this would be good for you. So if you're watching this live, don't worry about taking any notes. This is available after. Either get in contact with me, I can give you some more places to get some more free information, or if you're watching this back, take a cheeky screenshot and go and explore these. But just quickly to rattle through these, we've got a whole host of Google products that some of you might be sitting here and going, oh yeah, Google Analytics, Search Console, etc. I'm using. But for anyone going Google Analytics, not sure, have a look at getting that set up. I come across many people still saying Google Search Console, either I think I have access, someone set this up, I'm not sure. Make sure that you've got that set up. and link to your site. And then Bing Webmaster Tools is Bing's version of Google Search Console. And actually Bing Webmaster Tools has a whole host of other information that Google Search Console doesn't necessarily give you access to. So, you know, those first three, all of these are free to use. So, you know, get them plugged and attached to your site and start collecting data so you can start analyzing it. But how would we quickly look to analyze some of that data? We're using a tool like Google Data Studio. It basically pulls in data from a number of different points. So as an example, you can pull in data from Google Analytics and Google Search Console into Google Data Studio, and it will give you some nice templates, graphs, reports, etc., which will start to make your analysis of data a whole lot easier. And then you've got Google Tag Manager, Google My Business, which I hope a lot of you've got set up. And then if we'll go into this a little bit further later, but if you're having a look at your user experience and conversion rate optimization, I definitely get you to have a look at Hotjar. There's a paid for account. There's also a free version of that. And I'll discuss that a little bit further in these slides. And then looking at content, you've got Keyword Hero, which again, there's a free version of that. And that starts to plug together your Google Search Console data and some of your Google Analytics data and tries to claw back some of those missing keywords that Google frustratingly took out of Google Analytics many years ago. Answer the Public's a great tool. That you can go on there and type in keywords or questions, and it will show you what people on the internet are searching for. So it's a great place to start, you know, sometimes with a seed keyword, you know, a topic you could type in Austin, Texas, and you will start to see other related terms that people will then be searching for around Austin, Texas. You know, we'll be talking further in this about brunch in Austin, Texas, and there'll be more context to that as we go through the slides. But I can't say enough how great Answer the Public is. You've also got Google Ads Keyword Planner for some free keyword research. It's not the most robust place to be doing it, but it is free and it will give you more than, you know, not doing keyword research. Uber Suggest, another great free tool. And then looking at quickly at technical SEO, I would get Redirect Path. It's a little Chrome add-on. Screaming Frog is a free website crawler for up to 500 pages, and then it's I think £149 thereafter. And then we've got SEM Rush, which I'm going to talk a little bit further about in this presentation, but you can get, we'll drop it in now or later in the slides. There's, I've got a link for a 14-day trial, so you'll start to see why you might be wanting to use SEM Rush later in these slides, but I would implore you to use the free 14-day trial link because you'll be able to do some keyword research, optimize your content, and run a site audit as well. It's a great all-in-one marketing suite. Then, you know, moving on to mobile friendly. So making sure your website is mobile friendly. We all might think it is, but it might not be. So use that mobile friendly test. And then site speed. There's a list of tools. They're all free to use, and I will be covering a bit more about site speed shortly, so I don't want to ruin anything just yet. So how are we going to fill those knowledge gaps? So if it's knowledge gaps you're looking that you feel are holding your SEO back, you need to know where your weak areas are. You know, as we covered earlier, it might be great that you're great at doing something like copywriting or digital PR, but you might find that, you know, technical side of SEO is still a bit baffling. You know, this can be an opportunity to develop skills, as we covered earlier, like watching webinars, conferences, doing courses, being active on social media can help level up your skills. Again, you can build relationships on social media with people who do SEO, and a lot of times you might find that they'd be happy to help and answer your questions. So it actually limits your time of being on the internet searching for questions. You know, a lot of SEOs I've found over the years, including myself, want to be helpful and share knowledge. So carrying on with that, you know, if we look at how we're going to learn to fill those knowledge gaps. So look at what knowledge gaps areas you need to fill yourself, your staff and your business, and create a plan of how to gain further knowledge. For example, if you're looking to run a technical SEO audit on your website, something you just found out about that you need to do on your website, and you don't know how to run a technical audit before, how are you going to run one? Or, you know, then once you've done it, what are you going to do with that information? And as I say, I'd recommend examples of, you know, watching, reading, whatever works for you, a few technical audit videos or blog posts, and start to understand more on running a technical SEO audit. You know, I'm actually running a series of webinars with SEM Rush at the moment. The last one I just did was why, when, and how to start auditing your website. And I'll be following up later this month with an episode on doing a live SEO audit. And then have a look at how to collaborate and skill share. So, you know, how could you network, meet people that you can either collaborate with or skill swap with to close those knowledge gaps. You know, for example, we'd all like to know more information, but it might be the simple fact is you can't start learning technical SEO at the moment because you've got so much on your plate. That is life. You know, here's where the digital networking really comes in, and finding people that be interested in skill swapping. As we discussed earlier, you know, are you a great writer or photographer, and how can you swap those skills with someone else? And then looking at how to fill the gaps by starting small. I remember many moons ago, SEO seemed to be, and this was many moons ago, SEO seemed to be a minefield. And the more I learned, the more I realised there was still to learn, which can sometimes be a little disheartening. But starting small is key, just as much as walking before you can run. So when it comes to SEO, there are many areas to focus on. The more areas you focus on, the more you have to manage, and sometimes that can get out of control quickly if you're new to this. So a very important factor to creating a great performing organic strategy on a budget is knowing where you can start and focus your efforts on to achieve growth. You need to prioritize what you're focusing on. So whether that's a product, service, or content, and prioritize the pages or goals that are most important to you. You know, are you trying to dominate local search? Have you looked at optimizing your Google My Business listings and try to rank for local terms where competition is more limited? You may find you are able to achieve more for one or two pages than if you're trying to spread yourself across your whole site. So think, plan, execute, and start small and build from there. And so learning from your competitors. So firstly, learn from competitors. Don't just copy and do as they do. This will only mean you are following the leader. Try to be smarter and more clever with what you have at your fingertips. And one way of saving some time and resource is by looking at what competitors are already doing. So what can you start doing today then? Well, you can start finding out today what backlinks your competitors have and where they come from. See if any of those links are worth approaching, any of those sites are worth approaching for your own links, because there's something you can offer. What keywords do your competitors rank for, and what don't they rank for? Are these keywords that your competitors rank for badly? Are they long-tail keywords they're not, or are there long-tailed keywords they're not ranking for, leaving you to step in? And quickly, what do I mean by long-tail keywords? So if I give you the example, I used to use the example of iPods, but I'm not sure iPods are made anymore. So, you know, if you're out searching for an iPhone's very short-tailed. That will have huge competition, the word iPhone. But the longer sort of the sequence of keywords you put in, so you might be then searching for an iPhone blue, iPhone X in blue, you know, which is 20 gig. That's a far longer tailed term, which may therefore have lower competition and something you can sneak in on. I realise iPhone probably wasn't the best example, but I will be talking about a website that I've reviewed before, and how to start off with sort of shorter tailed keywords and how to build those out to longer tail keywords that, as I say, your competitors might not be going after because the search volume will be lower. Now, don't necessarily sit there and think, oh, low search volume, not worth it, because that might be your way of building up your site, is going after a whole bunch of lower traffic search volume keywords that you can start building your site upon. So I always think it's good to have a mix of short-tailed and long-tailed keywords, and understand how their copy might be outranking yours, and use that to your knowledge to improve your own. So is there a better layout? Are they using images better than you? Are they using video content and you might not be? Or are they using video content that's more engaging, explaining questions, processes, situations, something like that? Other areas you can utilize when learning from competitors, you can see who has a featured snippet you might be covering, and improve your copy. So, it's structured similarly to ensure you give a better answer to the searcher's question, and then maybe you can take over that position. But it has to be stressed, though, that just because another site is doing something doesn't mean your site should be doing it. Search algorithms are complicated, and there can be many reasons why a poorly optimized page might be ranking above yours. Don't just blindly copy what somebody else is doing. Ensure your changes fit in with what you know about the algorithms. And it's crucial that you don't look too far off of your website's industry for inspiration. They won't be your competitors. They're not the websites that are your competition within SERP. So therefore, the reason they're ranking #1 for a term might not be as relevant to your site, and why you're not ranking for it. And just a couple of tools to use to spy on competitors. A couple we've already covered before. Ubersuggest, SpyFu, SEMrush and Ahrefs, and then for social media you've got BuzzSumo as well, and you can also use Google's advanced search operators. If we've got time, I might cover a bit more of that later, but work out which area you want to look at your competitors for and create a plan, whether this is creating more long tail niche content through to link building. I'll give you, as I say, I'll give you some examples towards the end of this presentation of how we can explore that further. So fixing problems. I can almost guarantee there will be a problem with your site. If there isn't a problem, then you're awesome and keep doing what you're doing. In most cases, there's always an issue with a website that needs to be resolved and also monitored moving forward. As I always say, you can create the most beautifully written and crafted content, but all your hard work can be for nothing if your website has some fundamentally flawed technical issues. Now, what do I mean there? You really don't want to be wasting your time and money on creating content for your website if your website is suffering from some severe technical SEO issues, which could be hindering how Google crawls, indexes, and then ranks your sites. I talk about this a lot with people and clients. I always recommend understanding what your website health is before diving into any particular direction of SEO. I would highly recommend running an audit on your site. These can be time consuming depending on how you go about it, but they can reveal issues that you never knew existed because a lot of them are not visible to the eye, as per se. If you can get your website to be into a more technically sound position, then you could be putting yourself in a position ahead of your competition, as you can make changes faster on your site with less sign-off processes. You know, within the number of SEOs that I know, we still talk about a lot of major brands out there who have huge technical SEO issues. So, you know, one of those things is if your site, or if you're in the position to get your site to a more technically sound SEO place, do it, because that might just be one of those little things that you needed just to push your page, push your rankings, push your site above your competition. But a few questions to ask yourself, you know, is, do you know what issues your website has? Do you know what's holding your SEO efforts back and possibly alienating visitors? Has it been migrated recently from a new CMS? Have you migrated from HTTP to HTTPS? You know, was it carried out effectively, or might it still be suffering from some residual effects from that migration? What does your backlink profile look like, including anchor text? What do the pages you've already optimized on your site look like? Are they growing in visibility? And, you know, as I said, what does your technical setup of your site look like? Can it be crawled easily, you know, with the signals as to which pages should be indexed consistently? And remember, people, it's 2020 and you're still not auditing your site. You could be losing money, leads, and much more from not doing a website audit. And so just quickly here, this is SEMrush's dashboard for a site audit crawl. What it brings up, examples of issues, is thin content, duplicate content, all the way to optimizing what your title tags and meta descriptions are. It will show you if you have redirect chains that have nastily been created over time, or possibly through something like a site migration. A site audit tool, you can use many different site audit tools for auditing your site. These range from tools such as SEMrush, which I said about, which does a lot more than site audits. There's a monthly cost involved with the software, like most. I think we've got a free trial link that could be going into the comments section now. If not, we'll do it later on. But that's a 14-day trial. Usually SEMrush, I think, do a 7-day trial, but check it out. For 14 days, you can run one of these site audits. As I say, towards the end of the month, I'm doing a live site audit with SEMrush, so you can, you know, jump onto that, see how it works, run one yourself. You'll be able to do some of the content work that we'll be talking about later in this presentation, along with a number of other things. So I would say, if nothing else you take away from today, use that 14-day free trial link. Audit your site, look at your content, and make some improvements, and try to make those strides to beating your competitors. But there's also other tools like Screaming Frog. As I said, 500 pages, you can crawl for free, and then that's a little bit cheaper. It's £149 a year. But you'll need to know a little bit more about SEO and technical SEO to understand what you're kind of getting out of Screaming Frog. But if we take the SEMrush example, you can set up and run a crawl. It will notify you once it's completed, and then give you a great overview of what the issues are that it's found on your website, along with this handy little guide that's in there, and I think it's in a few crawlers now, but next to what the issue is, it will give you some guidance of explaining what the issue is and some guidance towards how to fix that issue, putting you, steering you in the right direction. And once you have an idea of the areas of your site that might be holding you back, you can either focus on these as your first stages of your strategy to tackle. With tools like SEMrush's site audit tool, you can also set up periodical crawls, which will just run in the background. And these will start to highlight and track issues moving forward, keeping you at the top of your website's health and hopefully driving your website above the competition, because you have a super healthy website. And also fixing problems, as I said, with things like Google Search Console. Google Search Console is kind of your little portal between your website and Google will quite happily tell you all the issues that it's found within Google Search Console and your website. So, lastly, fixing problems and making sure you're checking Google Search Console for errors and issues, and ensure that you're clearing these up. So I haven't checked these off in my Google Search Console. I've fixed these errors recently, and I should have marked them as resolved. It was actually a WordPress issue I had with sitemaps, and it's just showing me there. But you can come in here, go to coverage and a number of other areas, and it will show you areas of problems that you need to fix. So I would really, if you're not using Google Search Console, either get it set up or log in and have a look at it. And if there's ever any questions, just you've got my details, just drop me a message, and I'll be happy just to fire a few Q&As back and forth. But what we really need to be doing is building a user-friendly website. And you might be thinking, but my website is user-friendly, Tristam. But is it? Have you looked at the design, navigation? Have you got clear calls to action? What's your website looking on desktop versus mobile? What's the functionality? Does everything work as it should? And I can almost hear people saying, yes, of course my website works as it should. But in the last episode I did, of my SEM Rush series I'm doing at the moment, we were talking, myself and Craig Campbell were talking about an affiliate site he purchased off of someone because they weren't getting the sales they thought. He ran an audit and he was finding that I think it was the buy now button wasn't working, or the checkout button wasn't available, or something odd like that. So as an SEOer, and just through a simple bit of testing to see if the website was user-friendly, he managed to buy an affiliate site reasonably cheap, I believe, but fix an issue that no one knew existed, but was holding money back. They fixed it, and now they're moving towards a better direction. So, make sure you're having a look to see if your website's user-friendly. Have a look at its site speed as well. As I said, is your site speed? Is your website user-friendly? Have you tested it? This can be through paid for user testing, or even just by asking people that you might know to complete a specific task on your website and seeing what the results are. There's no harm in testing to whatever level you can afford, have access to, but I always employ people to either test yourselves or find people who would be happy to test if you don't have money to pay for user testing. And so as we move on, we'll have a look at Hotjar, as I said. So Hotjar is a great tool. It can help you gain more insights on what people are doing on your website. As I said, there's a free option. This is limited, obviously. You can only attach Hotjar to 3 pages on the free version, but it will start to give you way more insight on your website than you have at the moment. This slide here shows you the heat maps. So this will record on 3 pages on the free version where people are hovering over and heat mapping on your website, starting to make you think, are people hovering over areas that they may think are clickable, but they're not clickable on your website? So say an image in a banner on your homepage, as a quick example. People might be hovering over that, expecting to do something, and it's just an image, just sliding image, doesn't click through. But from looking at a Hotjar and heat mapping, it might show you that you might want to try and make that image clickable, and then you can see what the results are. Have you increased conversions by just making a simple change like that? There's also an awesome tool in there where it records exactly what a section of users are doing on your website. So you can start to see literally how people are using your website, which for me, I think is pretty awesome. And then lastly, it does give you surveys as well, like this example. So it will give you feedback on questions you can deliver to people that are on your website. And if we just look at those 3 areas of heat maps, recordings and surveys, we can obviously start to garner and gain more information on how our site works, functions, and user satisfaction, because at the end of the day, we want to increase that user satisfaction. And as I said, is your website mobile friendly? We live in a mobile first world, but is your website mobile friendly? Do both desktop and mobile versions of your website function and work seamlessly like each other? Firstly, I'd recommend you running your website through Google's mobile friendly tool. This is a great starting point to understand further how your site looks and functions on a mobile device. I still come across clients, or just me surfing around the internet as an internet user, the experience. I think I was actually, so here in the UK, we have a big weather company called Met Office, and I'm a bit of a nerd. I wanted to look up the cloud cover because we have some meteorites happening over the next couple of days. So I wanted to see what the cloud cover was. But going on Met Office's website, I was served with a huge desktop page, but it was all on my mobile. So that's quite a frustrating experience. So I sadly clicked back to Google and found another site which was more user-friendly and gave me the answers and what I needed in a better fashion. So think, is your website working on desktop as well as it is on mobile? We live in a mobile first world. So what's next? Then it's a case of understanding what it is you can tackle and what you need as an outcome, and what you need to outsource. So once you have a clear list of where you can start making strides to improve your website to make it more user-friendly, remember it's more than one thing in SEO trying to get traffic to your site, but it's another to get them to stay, browse, convert, and share your site with others. Think about some of the sites you love to use, and why a great example is always Amazon. They make things quick, easy. So try to think how you can give more user satisfaction. And so let's have a look at content. Good old content. So in this following section, we're going to be looking at content. So, updating existing content before creating more. Focus on what your competitors are not. Look for content opportunities and fill gaps in your competitors' websites. Keyword research, optimizing for long tail key phrases. So a lot of people might say, my content is fine though. Why would I optimize it? Content is king. That's what we're told. Google likes fresh content, so let's keep the content machine going and keep creating more content. But hold on. When was the last time you looked at the content you've already created? Do you track your keyword rankings to understand how your content is being discovered? Have there been any positive or negative shifts in your keyword rankings? Firstly, do you track keywords? If you don't, then you'll be in the dark, so get tracking. Next, you'll want to take an approach of reviewing your current content. Is there content that could be polished and re-optimized and republished? You can jump into a tool, as I say, like SEMrush, to review your content, looking at further long tail keywords that could, allow your content to give more value to the reader. Remember to give value though. Don't just answer questions, give value. Are there similar pieces of content that you created that could be consolidated into one post, again, to give greater value to the visitor? You can even spy on competitors to understand what they're doing in that keyword niche. And if they're adding more value than you are, is there something more you can employ to that page to give your visitor even greater value? As I said earlier about, additional images, additional valuable content, video content is becoming huge. And then lastly here, looking at Google Search Console, as we had a look in the example a second ago, if you take these steps, if you were to log into Google Search Console, navigate to performance, here you'll be able to see search queries for your website over a specific date range. And then that is broken down by clicks and impressions. So if you're getting high impressions for a search query or keyword, yet clicks are low, you can then look at re-optimizing your content to encompass these keywords whilst looking at your title tags and meta descriptions. So you can look to increase the click-through rate from SERPs by optimizing your title tags and meta descriptions with this new information you've just acquired from Google Search Console. Remember, it's not always about making one change that will catapult you to the top. SEO is more like a big pie with lots of little pieces of the pie all coming together to make a one big yummy smelling pie. I apologize for my silly GIF slides. So moving on, we'll have a look at, so speed kills, or in this case, it's quite the opposite. Slow speed can kill your site, or at least your conversions. Have you ever looked at your site speed, or when was the last time you checked your site speed? So here's two graphs. It's been widely debated that site speed, the speed of a website, can influence user experience. Here are two studies, one from Google and one from Kissmetrics. The left-hand side shows that if mobile takes 1 to 3 seconds to load, the probability of bounce rate is 32%. All the way up to 10 seconds will cause up to 123% bounce rate. Google actually said in this particular report, which is linked to, they said, here's the good news. Since we looked at mobile page speeds last year, the average time it takes to fully load a mobile landing page has dropped by 7 seconds. The bad news is that it still takes 15 seconds on average, according to our new analysis, and that's far too slow when you consider faster site speed makes people view more pages on your site, convert more, and buy more of most brands' site. The second graph shows the percentage chance of abandonment versus the amount of seconds it takes a page to load. So either way, this isn't great news if your site takes too much time to load. So your page speed means you're increasing your overall user experience. Longer load times show that negatively affects conversions. And studies have shown that if your site takes longer to load, your conversion rate will go down and down. So the simple answer is to improve your site speed and get winning. But how do we do that? So let's start off by picking some tools. So have a look at these. There are more, but try Page Speed Insights, GT Metrics, Pingdom, and Web Page Speed, Web Page Test. I always look at a variation of tools because all tools are built and work slightly differently. When you run the tool, you'll see what results come back, and you can start to see some commonalities. And some of the factors that have to be taken into consideration with load times are oversized images, minifying CSS, minifying HTML, etc. A lot of times I do still see oversized images being served to users, meaning that oversized images, they're oversized file sizes, when a simple change of just uploading the correct image size and serving that to the user will solve this issue. I beg you to run a site speed test today and check out your own site speed. Google ideally want to serve the best answer and experience to a user. So start improving your site speed today and keep checking it periodically. And again, I think it might be in November, I'm actually running another webinar on site speed. So get in contact if you're interested in site speed, and I can discuss that further with you. And then just rounding off, as I see time is rapidly getting away from us, focus on local SEO optimization to dominate local searches. So as we briefly looked at this example site earlier, I spoke briefly that they do have a number of blogs listing categories that are related to brunch spots in Austin. But how do we look at opening this up further with the view to start to dominate localized search for brunch spots or for brunch? So let me just quickly try and do this seamlessly. So if we jump in here, what I've done quickly is I've searched for brunch, and then what I started to see was search terms around brunch boats in Austin. And this particular site just had a top 15 brunch spots in Austin guide. They weren't covering anything else. And some of these terms, like brunch boats in Austin, were actually targeted to this page, which led me to think there's a whole wealth of content, because I did some research. There's quite a lot of brunch boats in Austin. I'd love to go to Austin, Texas one day and enjoy this. But there's a lot of search terms around brunch boats in Austin. So if you jump into SEMrush, enter your domain, navigate to organic research, then look at the top organic keywords. As I say, then we've jumped through to brunch boats in Austin. And what we can now see here is the search volume. We can see the keyword difficulty. And what's great is it starts to give you keyword variations here. So we've got the brunch boat Austin, Austin brunch boats 2019, but is there something around 2020 that we could be having a look at, or 2021? Austin brunch boats, and then you've actually got some other related keywords here. And what's great, hopefully this will run here, is we can actually have a look at the top searches or the top ranking sites for brunch boat Austin, and we can start to see 1 to 10 and then all the way up to the 100 spot, but we can start to have a look at referring domains, backlinks, search traffic, etc. So you can start to really gain more information about what your competitors are doing and other opportunities around longer tail keywords. You know, do you have a list of all the neighborhoods in this example of Austin, you know, uptown, downtown? I don't know any other areas at the moment in Austin, and each restaurant or boat that sells brunches in that neighborhood. So, you know, there's a huge opportunity here to use tools like this to start to build out and see what your site's ranking for, what terms you rank for but might not be hitting the mark. But if you wrote a new piece of content, as I say, this particular site I looked at didn't have a huge wealth of brunch boats in Austin, but that's a whole blog post or guide in itself. And then you're building a whole bunch of relationships with those people and companies who run those brunch boats and brunch
Hi guys, I guess we have some trouble with Tristam's video. Let's wait for a second. Hopefully he will be able to come back.
So thank you, everybody. Just to say a quick thank you and apologies, my internet died towards the end of the presentation, but I just want to thank everyone who's watched today. Sadly, I've overtalked as usual, but if you do have any questions, let me just jump right back to the start. My details are Tristam at purplesmudge.com or at Tristam Jarman on Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook too. I think some of that information is in the description. So any questions that I clearly have not been able to answer now, hit me up. And I was just quickly speaking with Natalie and saying that I might be able to write a piece of content doing a little Q&A answering any questions. So apologies again, but thank you for attending and thank you guys for having me part of this fantastic event today.
Yes, thank you, Tristan. Thank you for your presentation. I guess we'll gather the questions and something over to you so you could answer them. And
Perfect.
also one more announcement I would like to make. Tristan will participate tomorrow in this SEO traffic show, so join it for sure. And this was one of our questions. So yes, you must know he will participate. So please come.
And we'll have more time for questions tomorrow, I promise.
Yeah, yeah. So that's another chance to ask your questions. So thank you so much. And thank you everybody for your questions, for as always for being active. So we have to stop here, and I have to say goodbye. But in a couple of seconds we'll have another session. We actually have 2 more sessions tonight, so you can join them as well. Please keep looking, keep commenting, keep chatting. Yeah, and I personally see you tomorrow. Bye bye.
See you later.
Welcome back to day 4 of Travelpayouts Affiliate Summit 2020. My name is Olga Gachkova. I'm a marketing manager at Travelpayouts, one of the largest travel affiliate networks in the world. So I'm going to moderate the final 2 workshops for today. And now I'm happy to introduce to you our next speaker. It's Laurie Tighe. Laurie is the co-founder of Budget Your Trip, and she's an avid traveler, foodie, and adventurer who enjoys exploring the world with her family. And today, Laurie will dive into the topic of travel blogs monetization and explain how to use SEO to grow your organic traffic. The workshop, as usual, will take around 45 minutes and will be followed by a Q&A session. Welcome, Laurie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me here. I am here from Budget Your Trip. Just a little bit about myself. Me and my husband started Budget Your Trip about 10 years ago now. It is a travel planning website specifically about budget planning. It provides tools for travelers to plan their budget, to track their budget, and then it congregates all the tracked budgets to determine, to estimate the costs of different places around the world. We started it about 10 years ago. It was launched during a trip we took, a year-long trip we took around. We left San Francisco, we quit our jobs right at the beginning of the last recession, if anybody remembers that. And spent a year traveling and building this website. We tracked our budget pretty thoroughly and realized that there were resources that needed to be out there for people who were budget travelers like us, who wanted to figure out where to go and how much they were going to be spending. So that was the start of our website. So when we started the website, as most people do, we had a variety of ideas, and it's changed dramatically in the last 10 years. But what we've learned is content is king. Everybody's heard that before. So when you start your website, you got to generate your content, but you got to keep your end user in mind. So develop your content in a way that will bring users to your site. From the very beginning, you've got to be thinking about the keywords. You've got to be thinking about monetizing the site, how you might be able to make money from that. And at the end of the day, content first, traffic second, and then the money will come. So there's a variety of sources of traffic. Our site is predominantly driven by organic Google searches. And this is a really powerful thing simply because that's what advertisers want. Because every time you get a new Google search in, it's a new set of eyes. The other sources of traffic are referrals, returning users, and then there's a couple of smaller ones that we also get some traffic from. So just to talk a little bit about the organic Google searches. For us, this is the most powerful tool. It's all about SEO, and it brings in, every time someone comes in, it's a new set of eyes. The ad networks, whether it's Google AdSense or a different one, they love the Google traffic. So we put a lot of our time and our resources into building our rank so that we can grow our Google searches that much more. You'll find if you're just starting your blog in the beginning, more of your traffic will come from referrals. But as you grow in ranking, then eventually Google will overtake that. So moving on to referrals. So in the beginning, you might get a link here or there, and it'll jump your traffic up really quick. And that's great and it's exciting, but ultimately, whether it's another blog or a site like the Washington Post or CNN, ultimately that traffic's going to disappear because that page is going to be archived and it's just not going to get the traffic it once got. But what it does do is it creates that link juice, which Google loves. And so the more links you get, the higher you're going to start to rank. So in the beginning, you'll see your traffic coming from the referrals, but with time, that'll just grow your Google traffic and you'll start to get more and more Google AdSense traffic. And that Google search traffic, and that is where the money really comes in. So returning users. Returning users are great because it means they like your brand, they recognize your brand, and they're coming back for more and more information. And that means you're succeeding. That's a good thing. You want returning users, but from a monetary point of view, you'll realize that the returning users don't have as much drive for the cost. The money doesn't come from the returning users. But what they can do is they can help you get links. They can help you build a loyal following and grow your newsletters and that type of thing. But for on-site traffic, Google AdSense for us has been, Google searches for us has been the biggest drive of traffic and money. So there's a variety of other sources. Social media is obviously, for many sites, really, really big. For us, We haven't used it as much as a lot of sites have, just because we haven't seen the payout from it. But lots of sites, especially the influencers out there, they like Facebook, they like Instagram, they like whatever's the hot ticket at the moment. But it's constantly changing, it's trendy, and for us, it hasn't been very lucrative. Newsletter subscriptions. This is something that really gets you those loyal followers. We have used this, and it's a powerful tool, especially if you can get some advertisements within the newsletter, and then you'll start to make some money. And then paid ads. So we've gone this way a variety of different times. And for us, it's typically we've done paid through Google's network, and it's never paid off. It's whether you're talking about a page that monetizes affiliate ads, or whether you're talking about a page that just uses ad networks, then it just never, the cost was never worth the benefit. But in the beginning, a lot of people like to experiment with it, try it out, see if it works for you. For us, it never has. So, understanding your users. So this is the biggest part for me with SEOs. So you really want to know what your users are looking for. Some users, they're ready to buy. They're out there, they're ready to book that trip, they're ready to find a hotel, they're ready to find a bus, whatever they're looking for, they are ready to buy. And if you want immediate monetization, those are the people you're looking for. Others are still doing their background research. They're looking to figure out where they want to go. They want to know what season to travel in, how to get somewhere, but they're not yet ready to actually make that reservation. So your affiliate programs, the pages that monetize the affiliate programs, you're going to want those people who are ready to buy. You want them to be ready to make that reservation. But for the background research pages, you're really going to want to monetize the ad networks, much broader, things like Google AdSense. So look at the page's purpose. Think about which type of user you're trying to attract and who's going to be coming to that page. Are they still doing their background research? Are they at that purchasing phase? And think about the keywords to use to make sure you understand what they're about to do. And then the ads on that page should reflect the type of user that's coming. So then once you know what type of user you want to bring into the page, you really want to choose the right keywords. So for background research, those tend to be the broader keywords, things like traveling to Italy or Spain, where should I go? Things like best season to visit Thailand, or what's the weather in South Africa in January. These people are not ready to make their purchases, but you can definitely monetize these sites with broader ad networks. The travelers that are ready to make the purchases, you want the right keywords for them. So they're going to be searching for something a lot more specific. They're going to be looking for the tours specifically of the Louvre in Paris. So a lot of details in those keywords. They're going to want the buses that travel from Hanoi to Hue, then the bus schedules and the time frames and how long that trip takes. And they're going to want the best trekking trips of the Annapurna circuit. They're done. They know they're going to Nepal, but they want to know where they're going to go in Nepal, how they're going to trek, what the trekking company is that they're going to do, and they're going to be ready to book. So you want to bring them in, and then you want to market that company to them, and that will help you bring in the affiliate money. So looking more at the keywords, there's 3 kind of categories of keywords. If you think about it, it's like any other curve. You've got up here, you've got the head of the curve, the body of the curve, and then the long tail. So the head of the curve drives most of the searches. These are the broader categories. These are things like travel to Spain, travel to Italy. But these are also the pages that are the most competitive. Let's go down here. These are the 1 or 2 word keywords. But they're also the ones that rank TripAdvisor, Lonely Planet, the bigger companies. So if you're a smaller blog just starting out, these are going to be really hard for you to rank for. But if you could, they would bring in the most traffic, obviously, because this is the broadest category. But they're highly competitive. And as a beginning blogger, you're going to want to prioritize more the body of the curve. These are the more moderate category keywords, 2 to 3 words, a little bit more descriptive. They still bring in a decent amount of traffic, and you're still going to have a good amount of competition. But with just a few links to those pages, you can really bump up to the first page of Google. So some of these types of keywords would be things like tours of Costa Rica or Masai Mara tour operators. Masai Mara is in Kenya for those that don't know. And then, so really in the very beginning, the long tail keywords. So these are the ones that you can rank for pretty quickly because they're very specific. They're niche keywords and they're targeting a very specific audience. So if your site in particular has a niche to it, that'll help you bring in these long tail keywords. The challenge with them is you really need a lot of different pages because it's a long tail. You want as many people coming in with so that you can drive up that traffic. But these are the low competition keywords. Things like anchor what tours for kids, you know, add in the descriptive details, affordable Charleston historical tours. You're going to be able to bump out things like TripAdvisor some because you will have those very niche keywords. So then there's another type of way of looking at keywords. There are the navigational, the informational, the investigational, and the transactional. So navigational keywords are really important because those are brand specific keywords. So when someone looks for your brand, so for us, it'd be budget your trip, travel costs, or something like that, they're looking for our website specifically. And even in the beginning, you want to be ranking really high for these navigational keywords because it should be in your URL. It should be throughout your site. It should be, Google should recognize that your company is Joe's blog, Joe's travel blog, and you should be at the very top. And your users are going to expect to find you at the top of the page. The informational keywords, those are more the background, the general information keywords. Those are things like travel costs for Kenya. And you know, if you have a niche to your blog, which is really helpful if you do, ours is budget travel, then you're going to want to be ranking high for these niche keywords that are still background information. Then there's investigational keywords. These are more in depth. These are when people are really, they're thinking about their trip, they're ready to go, but they're still figuring things out. And then finally, the transactional keywords. These are the pages that you're going to want the affiliate programs on. They're the ones where people are ready to book that bus ticket, that train ticket, that plane ticket, whatever it is. And so you want to have a very specific best tours in Angkor Wat for kids. And then they're going to click right over to your ad and they're going to make that purchase within the next few days. So choosing keywords is really important. It's one of the most important things you're going to do. So there's a variety of free tools out there. For us, we typically use the things provided by Google, Ads Correlate, Webmaster Tools. You can see what's working for you. You can see, sometimes you can see what's working for other people. You can see what's ranking high, what's competitive. So that's what we stick to. I've listed a few other free options out there, so you can look back to the slide if you want to try something different. But for us, we typically stick to the Google tools. So then other strategies for choosing a keyword. Sometimes it's fun to get creative with it. We've all seen the autofill on Google. So you can type in the first couple words and you'll see what other people are searching for. Use that because it's helpful. And the drop down to autofill is one of the first things we started using for creating pages and coming up with how we wanted our content on our site to look. And then look at the pages you already have and what's working. If you have a transportation-based page and is bringing in your traffic, then find a way to multiply that. Use different categories, use different locations, different types of transportation, and expand on that, and the money will follow. And then at the very bottom of Google, everybody's seen the related search box. So you can do a general search, and then at the bottom, it'll show you what other people are searching for that are very similar. And a lot of times they'll add in a little more detail. So you can see what Google thinks is relevant to that search. So in addition to the free tools, there's also a number of paid tools that help you find keywords. We have used Ahrefs and really like that one. I know there's a speaker here that you guys can talk to and listen to and learn a lot about that, but I can say from personal experience, it's a really powerful tool. It's helped us see what competitors are doing. It really gives you the nuts and the bolts in like a really, really comprehensive but understandable way. There's a couple other ones you can look at, but and prior to this conference, we had always used Ahrefs and had a really positive experience. And here's just a screenshot from it, so you can kind of see it's giving you positions and of different keywords and the traffic that comes from them and whatnot. But I think he is speaking at some point in the conference, so you can check that out, and I'm sure he'll go into much more detail about that. So keywords and content. Find the low-hanging fruit. That's one of the biggest tricks we've had to learn is find the opportunities that already exist within your website. So look at the pages that are already ranking and are ranking moderately high, and then they can boost them up and your traffic is going to dramatically increase. The vast majority of clicks from Google come from the first, second, and third ranking sites. If you can get into those three, you'll see a huge jump in traffic really quickly. So look at your pages, find what's ranking on page 2, 3, or 4, or somewhere in there, and find ways to boost it. You can build links, you can promote it in a number of ways, you can change the format and the keywords a little bit, and you can often get to the top of the page. But one thing to remember is the higher you rank, the harder it is to move up. If you're on page 6, 7, or 8, you make 1 or 2 links will likely bump you up to page 2 or 3. But if you're in position number 4, it's going to be a lot harder to get up to position 2 or 1. You're going to have to build a lot more links. That's when things like Ahrefs really come into play, because you can look at the people who are ranking in the spots 1 and 2 and see who's linking to them. You can see how they're doing it, and you can try to recreate some of those strategies yourself. But yeah, like I said, the first and second ranks and third ranked sites on the Google will always get exponentially more traffic than anything, even on the bottom of the first page. So look at the other similar websites to yours and see what they're doing. Find out who they are linking with, and you can even reach out to them. They might be willing to swap with you. We've done some of that. We've done some link building with a variety of different websites with similar approaches to us, but also look at other websites and see how they're ranking and how they might have figured that out. And you got to get creative. Building links is a process. It takes a long time, especially in the beginning when your page ranks aren't that high and nobody's really heard of you. But start link swaps with comparable websites that are ranking about the same as you, and eventually you're just going to bump up and you'll get more and more competitive. And that's how it's played out for us. So latent semantic indexing. This sounds all fancy and technical. It's a technique in natural language processing, particularly distributional semantics, of analyzing relationships between a set of documents and the terms they contain by producing a set of concepts related to the documents and terms. Okay, that's a Wikipedia definition. Basically, the idea of latent semantic indexing is that Google will look at your page and take context clues to figure out what your page is about. So the example I've given, the Blue Ridge Mountains, which are here in Eastern United States. Some people look for the Blue Ridge Mountains for vacation purposes. Some people look for the Blue Ridge Mountains because there's a restaurant called the Blue Ridge Mountains, or perhaps there's a company called the Blue Ridge Mountains. But the context clues on your page, if you have Appalachian Mountains, North Carolina Mountains, other similar words will tell Google this is not about the company Blue Ridge Mountains, this is about the location, the geography of the Blue Ridge Mountains. So some people, there's a lot of debate as to how powerful latent semantic indexing really is in ranking, but at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt. So use a diversity of keywords to kind of coach Google into understanding what your page is actually about. So now back to like the initial point. Well, content is king. So especially since some of their algorithm shifts a few years back, like Google Panda, Google is really, really, really looking for high quality pages. They're not looking for those auto-generated 200 to 300 word pages that used to rank high quickly, especially, and you know, some of the big sites were known for putting those out. And so this actually gives an opportunity for the smaller sites that take more time and do more research and write the better contents to jump up and beat the TripAdvisors of the world. So from our experience, you need at least 500 words on a page, preferably closer to 1,000. We try to have up to 1,000 words on most of our pages. And they do take that into account, and it will help you move up in the rankings, and it will help you to navigate any future algorithm shifts. So also, Google likes when you come across as an expert. So writing a bunch of articles, a variety of articles on like one very specific topic. So back to the Blue Ridge Mountains. If you cover the geography within the Blue Ridge Mountains and the transportation and the hotels and all the different aspects of travel in the Blue Ridge Mountains, then you're building your reputation in Google's eyes. You're becoming that expert. So take an area, whatever it is, whether it's transportation or a location or something like that, and build a profile with a bunch of articles about that specific area, and they'll all boost each other up. And it'll help that happen exponentially. You really will notice a difference. So another thing that some people say, author bios are really helpful, that it presents you and your writers as experts. Not everybody agrees with that. So, I mean, it doesn't hurt. So it's something to consider having as an author bio at the bottom or the top of your page, kind of describing who the author is that wrote that and their expertise. But at the end of the day, you know, we all know what a quality content looks like. It's thorough, it's thought out, it's researched, it's written in an understandable way, it's broken down into subsections with good headers that guide the reader to understand what it is, and it flows naturally. This isn't like a research article. This is a natural, intuitive article that somebody can read, they can scroll through, they can scan the headers, and they can understand what it's saying quickly. If your readers can understand your page, then Google will also understand your page. So we'll jump to this topic real quick. So sponsored activities. So this is one of the ways to make some money off of your site. We don't personally do a lot of sponsored activities, but a lot of sites do. A lot of influencers really like these. But so if this is one way you're looking at making some money from your site, then it does require a good deal of outreach. A lot of people go to tourism boards at different locations and reach out to promote them, or any number of companies or hotels or venues, travel venues. And what we've found is, first of all, they really do want a heavy social media presence, which is not what our site really focuses on. That's more, we leave that to the influencers. But if you have that and you want to do that, it's great. But a lot of times they will pay you with activities, with free stays, but it's much, much harder to actually make money from a sponsored activity. So if you're looking to monetize your site as a company that's bringing in revenue, those don't always work that well. It's also an incredibly competitive market these days, just with the number of influencers that are out there on Instagram and elsewhere. So it's a trendy thing to do right now, but it's lots of effort and lots of work. So I'm going to jump from that slide really quick and go to, where do you put your keywords on the page? So keywords are key. And so Google prioritizes keywords based on where they are on the page and how they're tagged. So our experience is title tags are the most important. So if you look, this Thailand travel costs, that's the title tag. It's typically what shows up when you search, and there's that bold part that you click on. That's what comes from the title tag. And for us, that is the most powerful tool for choosing your keywords. Other popular ones, header tags and the URL really add a boost to the keywords as well, and links in the page. So if you turn something into a link, it suddenly becomes a lot more powerful in Google's eyes. Another one that kind of is a hidden, easy way to create some keywords is your image tags. And Google really likes those. So image tags, header tags are also obviously important too. So think about diversifying your keywords within those tags and which ones, the most important ones, should go in the title tags. So then the process for choosing your keywords. Initially, you want to think like your user. You want to be a traveler getting ready to plan their trip. So brainstorm your keywords. What would you be searching for, especially within your niche? Pick out those keywords that you think people are actually looking for. And you start broad, you start with those seed keywords, and then you're going to expand on that. I mean, obviously, Italy travel, everybody would love to rank for that, but you want to expand on it into your niche. So for us, it would be travel costs for Italy travel, that type of thing. Add descriptions to those seed keywords and look at all the tools that we discussed earlier, the related keyword search, the drop-down menus, the free programs that you have that you can find keywords with, and like get a diversity of keywords and just write them down, brainstorm them, And then you want to look into your Hrefs or whatever it is you're using, figure out how competitive they are, what pages are ranking for those keywords, how are they ranking for those keywords, where have they switched, where have they done link swaps with to get ranking, how many link swaps do they have, what is their page rank to get that high. And then you can kind of cultivate a page that has keywords that are powerful, that you can realistically rank for, and is a worthwhile project for your website. Especially if you're in the beginning, you wanna use modifiers to those seed keywords so that you get more of the long tail keywords. Those are gonna be far less competitive. And a lot of times they're gonna be helpful with the affiliate marketing, and that can bring in some real money, because those are the people that are ready to book. So like anything, whether you have like a financial portfolio or whatever, and we've especially, given the current landscape of travel right now, you always have to diversify your revenue sources. This travel has always been unpredictable. It's always been based on seasons. It's also right now in particular a very challenging field to be in, and there's a constant inconsistencies in the traffic that you're going to receive. So you have to be diverse in how you're making money and quick to change when the landscape is changing. So it's important to have relationships with other websites and other webmasters, figure out what they're doing, talk through it, but you want to have a diversity of revenue sources so that when one slows down, whether it's because it's the winter months or because the season is the landscape is changing, you want to have another one that's going to go up. So have at least 3 to 4 different revenue sources that you can really rely on for money. Let me go back up to. So one thing to consider when you're building your website is always continue reevaluating it. Nothing on the internet is static. It's constantly changing. Nothing in technology is static. Google changes their algorithm regularly. They have the big algorithm changes, but they also have small ones and more subtle ones throughout the year. So your page will be going up, it'll be going down, it'll be going up, and it can be really stressful, but always use your tools. That's why you really do want something like Hrefs, and use those tools to figure out why you might have gone up or down. And always be aware of where your most important pages are ranking at any given time and where your competitors are ranking. And then you're going to need to research why things might be changing so you can adjust quickly. So the types of revenue. So Google AdSense is a big one, especially in the beginning for people. But there are a number of other ad networks. There's affiliate programs, there's sponsored posts, and sponsored activities. So for us, like the pandemic, like everybody, has changed things dramatically. For us, pre-pandemic affiliate programs were by far the biggest revenue maker for us. Ad networks were second, and then sponsored posts we got a little bit from, but it was not something very noticeable. Now, during the pandemic, sponsored posts have really risen to the top. People are still paying for that. We have relationships with different PR firms, and we've ramped it up. We've chosen to take a lot more articles simply because right now, like most travel companies, everybody's in survival mode. Ad networks, back in March and April, when the pandemic hit really hard, ad networks and affiliate programs were the first thing to go. And it went down basically during the lockdown, when the whole world was locked down, we went down to about 3% of our income that we were making for March and April. And ad networks bounced back first. They still haven't bounced back fully, but now I would say that it's driven by low traffic as opposed to low RPMs. So when traffic starts to increase, we will eventually reach the revenue that we once were pre-pandemic with the ad networks. Affiliate programs dropped fast and hard as well. Nobody's booking anything right now. And especially back again in March and April, it also went down to about 3% of our original revenue. It's since bounced back a little bit, but it's been much slower to bounce back. And we're evaluating how to handle that, but it is coming back, and it will be able to bounce back a lot quicker once the landscape changes a little bit. So I'm going to look at the types of revenues a little bit. Google AdSense. Most people start with Google AdSense because it's really easy to use. You just put it on your site. And generally speaking, there's no minimum traffic requirement. There is a little, they've added in a little bit one just to avoid spammy sites, but as long as you're a legitimate site, then you should not have a problem using Google AdSense. And we still use it. It's a great source of revenue. It's been more stable, I would say, during the pandemic than some of the other ad networks we use, simply because I think it is so large. Their RPMs have, I mean, it dropped like everything else, but they've bounced back fully. And right now, I would say our RPMs are above where they were pre-pandemic. Our traffic is below, which is an interesting situation. The limitations of using something like Google AdSense is they don't always have the highest revenue. Like during normal times, we definitely were making a higher RPM with some other ad networks that we also use. It's also, they're unpredictable. If Google doesn't like you, they disappear. And so you gotta work within their rules and make sure that you play nice. The other challenge with Google AdSense is you are never going to talk to a person. They just, you know, you're not going to get a human being to talk to on Google AdSense, but you can. It's because so many websites use them, it's relatively easy to look on the internet and find other people who've had your problem, your challenge, your question at any given time, and you can find out how they navigated that. So yeah, so Google AdSense is still something that we use. So other ad networks. There's a variety of popular ad networks. Some are better than others. Different people have different opinions and have had different successes with them. But generally speaking, a good number of them do have higher RPMs than Google. They, the main one that we do use, they fell rapidly back in March and April, like everything did. They have started to come back pretty solidly now as well. And the benefit of them is the personal interactions that you're going to have. Like we have a point person at the company that we can talk to. Again, now they're also navigating the challenges of the economy at the moment. And so a lot of the people, the personal interactions that we once had don't exist anymore simply because they're minimizing their staff like everywhere is. But we have always had a good communication with the ad network. They work with us. They want us to monetize our site in the most efficiently way possible too, because it helps them. So the back and forth dialogue has been really good, especially in these times, because everybody's really works together and come together to navigate this time. As far as limitations for these other ad networks, the revenues, what we found, we've experimented with a number of them. The revenues vary widely between the companies. So you don't want to jump right in based on promises they make you. You want to maybe do a little test run for a month or so to see how it's actually going to play out in the real world, because you could lose a lot of money if you just put it suddenly on your site and they don't meet the expectations they set for you, which is not uncommon. A lot of people have that experience. So you definitely use caution when you're experimenting with any new ad network that you've got. Typically, the higher paying companies, the ones that are going to beat Google, they're going to have a minimum traffic requirement. And not always, but generally speaking, the higher the traffic requirements, the better the payout. So the more reputable companies, the ones that are getting the bigger money, you'll get the bigger money from, are going to have the higher requirements in traffic. Affiliate programs. So there's countless affiliate programs these days. There are the large ones. There are things like Amazon, hotels.com, booking.com, Kayak, Kiwi. A number of those can be found on Travelpayouts. And that's a great resource, obviously, to congregate all those and figure out which ones work best for you. The benefits of the larger affiliate programs, number one, is the recognizable name. Everybody knows Amazon. Everybody knows hotels.com. So you don't have to sell those brands. You can just get a click over and your cookie will sit on your, and eventually, hopefully, you'll get a booking. And so they have that built-in customer base. You don't really have to sell their products. They also typically have the high-level tracking systems. So you can look at their data, you can look at where your clicks are coming from, you can manipulate things and your keywords, you can really understand how to monetize that to the highest level efficiently. Now the challenge is, one of the biggest challenges we've had with these big ones are the competition. So you might be able to get a lot of clicks, but it'll almost immediately be overwritten by, your cookie will almost immediately be overwritten by another click. from another website. So while they get such a high number of bookings, we don't often see that money. So that has been a challenge. The other thing, similar to Google, is communication can be very difficult or non-existent with a lot of these. So you're really on your own. You are a small fish in a big pond. They are not depending on you for very much. So they're going to make changes quickly. They're not going to communicate well to you. You're really on your own. So niche affiliate programs, these are the smaller ones that are often transportation related, you know, specific tours or activities. A lot of them can be found on Travelpayouts. That's a good way to find them. These are the ones that really benefit when you use the transactional keywords. They're kind of low hanging fruit because you can rank really high quickly for those transactional keywords. And then the catch is you have to sell their product. So the biggest challenge with a niche product is most people won't have heard of the company. So you're not just providing a link that someone's going to click through and hopefully make a booking. You're really selling an actual product and creating brand awareness for them. But because of that, there's very little competition. And so if you can successfully sell their product, you're going to make a good amount of money from it. So if you're using those long tail keywords and you're able to sell the products, this really can pay out. The other benefit we've really had with the niche affiliate programs is the high level of communication and the personal interactions. We've been able to create relationships with some of these companies, and it's a back and forth relationship, especially right now when things are in such flux and everybody is trying. It really is. It's impressive to see the companies working together to try to navigate this. And there's been a lot of, some companies have done a really great job of boosting the revenue of their affiliates by raising the percentage that they get and doing things to help them pull through this time. So the communication's been there and they're open to suggestions, and there's a back and forth dialogue that you're not going to get with those larger affiliate programs. So then each affiliate program or ad network has a different type of payout. You can get paid by the booking you make, or you can get paid per the click. And each one has kind of a positive and a negative spin to it. Paid for the booking per booking tends to be larger, but they're a lot less frequent. Now, this was a really powerful method a year ago pre-pandemic for us because you could get large lumps of money from just one or two bookings, depending on what you're promoting. Now, obviously right now, bookings aren't happening as much. So the pay-per-click is a bigger source of our revenue. But long-term, as things start to return, the pay-per-booking has been really successful. You'll see this on sites like hotels.com or Amazon. They often use pay-per-booking. Now, pay-per-click is a lot less money. The RPM is a lot lower, but it's much more frequent. So sites like Skyscanner, Kayak Flights, and hotels to combine, you'll see this a lot with like the airline ads and stuff. You'll get a pay-per-click for that. So sponsored posts. This has become one of our bigger revenue sources right now while things are struggling to come back. And you got to be really careful with sponsored posts simply because you'll get a variety of different levels of quality. And you got to look out and make sure, first and foremost, no duplicate content. Google hates duplicate content. So scour the web and make sure that the content you're being presented with hasn't been used elsewhere. Also, the low quality of the content, minimum, 1,000 words, maybe 500, but usually 1,000 words. And you really need to look at the quality of the pages that you're linking to, because it needs to be within your niche, it needs to be relevant, and you need to have these rules set out well in advance so that you can communicate it to the people trying to sell you these articles. And don't compromise, because in the long run, your website will suffer if you start accepting sponsored posts that are lower quality and linked to sites that aren't relevant to your topic. So like I said, we've ramped it up. We've started bringing in, we work with a couple PR firms and they'll sell us high quality sponsored posts that we are accepting now. Whereas once things come back, we'll likely rein that in a little bit just because we don't like that being a big part of our revenue source. So there's a number of useful tools out there to help you with the SEO and website monetization. Moz is a big one. We use it a lot. It has all kinds of just articles and tools that you can buy and some free tools as well. There's, I believe, a forum where people are always talking about what's happened lately with Google and their algorithm. So it's worth knowing that website. Ahrefs, I've said it before, and we use it. We've used it for a while, and we have great things to say about Ahrefs. SEMrush is another one. Just familiarize yourself with the different tools and the websites out there so you know where to go to when you have a question. So one thing with SEO and the internet business in general is expect the unexpected. Obviously, nobody saw this pandemic coming a year ago, and things change, whether it's Google's algorithm or something happening in the world that influences travel. Like, you have to kind of be prepared to shift your website as necessary just to meet the current situation. Learn from your mistakes. In the beginning, you know, we started our website 10 years ago, and the direction it's taken has turned and gone one way and then another way. And you'll not meet a website that's been around for 10 years that hasn't had that happen. So some things are going to work, some things aren't going to work. Your original idea may take off, but you're going to need to tweak it, or you may need to completely shift it. And that's okay. That's part of it. So remember, Google updates their algorithm frequently. So you need to be prepared to figure out how to work your website within the changes. For us, the biggest one that hit us was Google Panda. And that was a while back, but it prompted the biggest change in our website and how we displayed content as of any change that's happened, because our content had been so data driven. We really had to beef up the pages, the actual information that wasn't data. The actual text on the pages had to ramp up to meet the expectations that Google brought in. That one hit a lot of major websites, and a lot of shifts were made. And it probably took us, from the time it hit us to fully recovering and ultimately thriving from it, probably took us about 4 to 6 months to fully recover. So, and we were hit pretty hard. So you can, even if you get hit hard, you can make powerful changes that are going to bring you back. So the trick is, though, to change quickly and to figure out immediately, like, what shift in the algorithm caused the negative situation, and then you can respond quickly and rework as necessary. But the best way to avoid any of those situations is to be proactive in the beginning and to create high-level content. Content is king, and Google continues to require better and better content to rank higher and higher, which is benefiting everybody. It's benefiting the smaller blogs. It's forcing better content out of the larger ones. So I think ultimately it really is the way to negate any algorithm shifts. The other one is to always be building the trusted backlinks, because some of the shifts are often about link building. And if you're doing anything a little sketchy that doesn't look right, just don't do it. Because once Google doesn't like those, that can be a lot harder to shift, because you have to retroactively recorrect all these backlinks. So just, you know, it's worth avoiding in the beginning. So also, don't panic. You know, your traffic's going to fluctuate. Sometimes it's because of an algorithm shift. Sometimes it's because of just, you know, a holiday that you didn't realize was happening in another part of the world and people just weren't on the internet. So don't panic based on day-to-day changes. But if it does seem to be a trend, you know, start looking into it immediately and determine why your traffic dropped when it did. If your traffic fell, in all likelihood, there are other websites out there whose traffic was also affected, and you can get it on the internet really quickly and figure out who else is being affected and what you guys have in common and why what changes need to be made that will help you figure that out. So one of the best ways to do it is to figure out exactly what date your traffic dropped. If you suspect it was an algorithm shift, then track it down to a specific day and you'll be able to see who else was affected in that same time frame. And then also you want to look at the types of pages and the keywords that were impacted. Most of the time, it's not going to impact your whole website. It's going to take a subset of pages that have a lot in common of a subgroup or a certain type of keyword, and it's going to impact the pages that are driven by that keyword. So look into exactly what groups, where the traffic's falling and why, and you can kind of navigate that. That's actually one of my favorite parts of the job, is when the traffic falls, to figure out why and where, and if I do need to be concerned. And once you have a better picture of why your traffic's falling, then you can start figuring out what to do to negate it and to fix it. And sometimes it's easier to fix than others. Hopefully it's a quick fix, but if it's not, you can work to build it up if you know what's wrong. So, so like I said earlier, this is a constantly changing environment, especially right now with the pandemic. SEO and the travel industry have been hit hard. The travel industry in particular has been hit hard. And many of the reliable destinations, there's a lot of people out there that are hurting, and the trends have changed. And it's my takeaway from it is the communication that's happening within the industry has been really impressive. And people are, some of these, you know, hotel congregate websites are reaching out to the actual hotels and hostels to see what they can do to help them, and vice versa. So the communication and the working together has really been powerful. And but even without the pandemic, you got to know that the environment will always be changing. Trends are changing. It's very dynamic, it's seasonal, and you got to shift your website accordingly and be aware of what's happening in the industry. For us to navigate the current situation, like most websites, you know, weekend trips are much more popular now than they used to be. We have always been driven by international travel, but we are focusing a lot more on like weekend trips and people saying the staycation idea, the going just a couple hours away for a few days, family trips, like immediate families are going places together just to get a change of setting. And local destinations. So road trips, much more than plane. Obviously, not a lot of people are flying these days. So kind of we've been modifying who our target users are, simply because those are the people who are going places right now. And then slow growth. There is no overnight success story. I mean, there may be a couple, but that's by and far, there's no overnight success story. You know, we've been at this for 10 years, and what we found is the first couple of years were the slowest growth, and then it climbs more exponentially. The more traffic you get, the easier it is to get more traffic. So just stick with it. Success breeds success. So as your traffic grows, as your brand reputation grows, as your links grow, you will see an exponential growth in your traffic. And with that will come more opportunities to earn money. And I think that's all I have to say today. So I think if there's time, then we're going to open up to questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Laurie. That's such a practical guide. Oh my God, I loved it. And so we have some time for questions, and I've collected a lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, possibly we're going to answer several. And so the first one, do affiliate links impact negatively on the website link profile?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question one more time?
Do affiliate links impact negatively on the website link profile?
So we have found a way to kind of categorize those links slightly differently, but generally speaking, we have not had that experience that it has a negative. We limit the number of affiliate links on the page, on any given page, and there's always a disclaimer that this page, all of our website has a disclaimer that, you know, we have affiliate links that we monetize but benefit from. But no, we haven't. Google has never, to my knowledge, has never lowered our ranking based on the affiliate links. But like I said, we very much limit how many we put on a page. So you don't want a page that's just affiliate link after affiliate link. It's usually content on the page first, and then naturally within that website, that web page, it would be a couple of affiliate links.
Great. All right. The next question is, what do you think of guest posting? It looks like a lot of work. How can I understand what the result will be?
So I'm going to assume you mean you writing guest posts for other websites. Is that
possibly? Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Was referring to. You know, we did that a lot more in the beginning, because then it's a lot harder to get the natural link swapping happening. And it did benefit. It benefited a lot, because those first few links that your website can get in the beginning are very powerful. So, but make sure you recognize what websites you're actually doing that with, because some websites aren't going to be around in a year, and you want it to be a higher ranking page. If you're going to take the time to actually write a guest post for somebody, you want it to be a reputable website. I know back when we did it a lot more, a number of them, like Traveler's Point was a very reputable site that used to take guest posts. I'm pretty sure they stopped a couple of years ago, but we had a lot of success with them. I'm sure that there's some out there now that are taking them, but in the beginning it paid out, but ultimately, in the long run, we've had much more success prioritizing content within our own site. So as you build your reputation, you'll probably shift that direction.
All right, thank you. And the final question probably for this workshop, having that local trend, local travel trend in mind, how can I understand that there is a potential in developing a site about a certain destination?
So the trick, so when we chose our website topic, we wanted to build something broad and big that could bring in lots of traffic. We've seen a lot, the trend is now to build websites on a very specific location. And that is helpful, especially right now, because you're often writing about a place you live and a place you know really well. And you really have to know that there's enough content and enough knowledge that you're going to get enough pages to actually start to monetize it. If it's a small enough location that you're going to struggle to get more than a handful of pages, I mean, then you really are going to not see the money come. But if it's a popular travel location with a lot of activities and a lot of things to do, and you really feel like you can get hundreds to thousands of pages of content, then it could definitely pay out and is worth your time for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Laurie. It's been a pleasure, and that's an incredible workshop. Thank you so much for joining us today. Sorry.
It was fun. So thank you for having me.
All right, and thank you everyone for your attention. Now we're going to have a short break before the next workshop, but before that, let me remind you that there is a great opportunity to network with other travel affiliate marketers on Facebook. In the comments here on YouTube, find the link to the Travel Affiliate Club on Facebook and join it right now. And we'll be back in 2 minutes and continue with a new format. It will be an open discussion with Oneika Raymond. Stay in touch. Welcome back to day 4 of Travelpayouts Affiliate Summit 2020. Before we proceed to the next discussion, let me remind you, if you're not working with Travelpayouts yet, you can use this time to register for free with a special promo code that will instantly add $25 to your Travelpayouts account. And you can find all information in the comments. So now we're ready to continue our summit. I'm delighted to announce that for the next 20 to 30 minutes, we're going to discuss monetizing travel blogs through personal branding with Oneika Raymond. And first of all, let me tell you about the speaker because I was extremely impressed. Oneika is an award-winning travel and lifestyle expert. She's a journalist and a television host. She has traveled to, listen, over 115 countries on 6 continents. Oneika has worked as a spokesperson and ambassador for global brands such as Hyundai, American Express, Coca-Cola, and Sony. She has also been featured in outlets including the BBC, Forbes, the Washington Post, Oprah Magazine, Condé Nast Traveler, the Wall Street Journal, and National Geographic Traveler. What a wonderful list. And Oneika, thank you so much for joining this summit today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super happy to be here.
Thank you. So what's going to happen for this 20-30 minutes? We're going to, discuss the topic of personal branding. But if you guys have any questions, please start writing in the comment section and I'm going to read the questions out loud, okay? All right, so before we dive into the topic of personal branding, I have my first question to you. What's your story? How did it all start and how did it bring you to 115 countries?
You know what? I started traveling. It was really a labor of love. It was something that I love to do. I grew up in Canada, but I had the chance to go to university in France. And that really opened up my eyes to international travel. And so when I returned home to Canada after university, I tried to figure out ways that I could go abroad again and live in Europe. And I discovered that I could teach overseas. And so that started a 10-year career teaching overseas in many different countries. I taught in England, I taught in France, I taught in Mexico, and I taught in Hong Kong. And while I was doing that, you have to realize that I was teaching purely so that I could live overseas and travel. And my passion really lied in storytelling. I always wanted to be a journalist. I didn't end up going to school for that. I ended up going to school for education and teaching. But I started a travel blog back in 2005. And this was a time when monetizing your blog just wasn't a thing. In fact, when people first started monetizing way back, what they were doing was they were getting text links. So companies were paying for text links on blogs, or people were making money through Google AdSense. There wasn't really a big way, I guess, to monetize your travel blog. So I was just doing it for fun. And then by 2016, I was getting a lot of different assignments. I was getting attention from a lot of different outlets, and I started getting paid for my travel writing and my travel photography. And around that time as well, influencer marketing became a thing. And Instagram started growing, and being an influencer became a thing. And that was where I really hit my stride, and I was able to start making a full-time income. So I left my teaching job and I went full-time into travel blogging and being a travel influencer, travel journalist, and host. And here I am today, 4 years later, over 4 years later.
I love that story. I feel a little bit jealous, of course, but that's a wonderful journey. And oh my God, you're the right person to ask my questions. So slightly turning to the topic of personal branding. So you said that in 2005, right? That's when you started the blog.
Yes.
Monetizing blogs wasn't a thing, and now it absolutely is. And so specifically talking of publications, and I mentioned many, wonderful journals and magazines and newspapers where you were, published. How has that affected your blog in terms of readership and earnings?
Oh, I mean, I think that PR is a wonderful thing. You could be the best writer in the world, you could be the best blogger, but if people don't know that you exist, if people don't know how to find you, then unfortunately you will not be able to build your personal brand. So I've found that PR, publicity, has been really integral to my growth as a a travel personality in this space, and it's really helped me to develop my personal brand. So in the beginning, again, I was just doing this for fun. I wasn't really conscious of the power of publicity, but I did back in the day, like circa 2011, I had a couple of posts go viral, and that really helped me get attention. And as a result, certain publications and brands were attracted to me because they saw my name, like they became aware of me. So I really think that, especially today and in today's climate, the power of publicity is one that is very strong and one that is very important to anyone who is trying to monetize their personal brand.
Thank you. And so back then in 2011, where you were, noticed for the first time by some big brands, what was your strategy then? How did you gain your first sponsors? And so I have a long question, I'm going to read several. So how would you start it now in 2020? And I'm asking because it's always scary to start with a zero public capital.
Yes.
And especially in 2020.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you have to realize is that when I started out, I started with very different intentions, and I started in a very different time. Social media wasn't as prolific as it is now. Back in 2009, Facebook was kind of a thing. It wasn't as popular as it is today, and I don't believe Instagram really existed. Twitter was around, but it wasn't something that people could really monetize, and you weren't seeing as many personalities on there necessarily, and influencers didn't really exist, and at least not by that name. So I would recommend for somebody starting out today to leverage social media. TikTok is huge. I am not on TikTok. I feel as though I juggle a lot, so I haven't really exploited TikTok, but I think that it's probably one of the most powerful social media tools right now, just because if you create content, it can go viral way easier, I think, than on Instagram. I think Instagram restricts posts and restricts reach in a way that TikTok has not done yet. So I think that if you are really starting out and you're really wanting to attract attention, most definitely get yourself onto TikTok, start creating content alongside your own personal sites. I always recommend that somebody has their own personal website, whether it's a blog or a website that's a sort of portfolio. It's really important for you to own your own domain and to have a space that is not, subject to reach or subject to being taken down or what have you. If you have your own website, you own your own content. So I always recommend that, but then use and leverage social media in order to draw people to your own operated sites. So yeah, TikTok I think is really important, even though I'm not on it. Instagram is Instagram is my biggest revenue and income driver these days. And I make most of my money through brand partnerships. And a lot of people will laugh and say, oh, you're an Instagram influencer, so on and so forth. But I get a six-figure annual income from Instagram brand partnerships alone. And that wouldn't be possible if I didn't have a strong personal brand in place. So that's something that I always recommend people to do. A lot of people, are uncomfortable with the term influencer, but there is a lot of money in influencer marketing. And it's a wonderful way to put yourself out there to garner an income and to gain an audience. So leverage social media. I think that is really the biggest takeaway.
Wow, that's a great piece of advice. But I have the next question, which is pretty curious and a little bit contradictory. So a little bit of information about that question first. We've got very opposite views from our speakers. Opinion. So some of them develop their branding, their personal branding, and some of them develop their company branding. And sometimes these are probably just the same people behind just different names. So one person develops their image as a travel blogger, and another person does not develop any personal image, just a company name. So what is your opinion? Does it is it so necessary to build, a personal brand in 2020? Or it is sometimes enough to put more effort into creating the best content first?
Right. I think it really depends on what it is you're trying to market, and it depends on what your end goals are. I don't have a product as such. I am the product. So for me, personal branding is very important because first and foremost, I am a creative. I'm a content creator. I am a media personality. I get hired for influencer marketing, where me and my image and my personality and my thoughts are at the forefront. I get hired for broadcast jobs, TV hosting jobs, where again, I am the product. And so personal branding is very important to me because when people are coming to me, they want Oneika Raymond. Now, if I were marketing luggage or something, like Away luggage, very popular brand, then perhaps Oneika Raymond would not be as important because people are coming to me or finding me because they are more interested in my luggage than what I'm doing, what I'm saying, what information I have to give to them. So I think it depends on what your business strategy is, what your business model is, what your revenue strategies are. And so, I don't think that they are mutually exclusive. I absolutely think that you can have a product or a company, and then you can separately be a face of that company. Like Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, for instance.
Absolutely, yeah. Great example.
But at the same time, it really just depends. Now, I know that talking about the travel blogger space, there were a number of travel bloggers that I started out with, and they primarily developed their content, and it was their income, or the business model was that they were going to make revenue through display ads, through affiliate links, and so on and so forth, and not necessarily through brand partnerships or brand deals or influencer marketing. Now, Google had its update and massively devalued a lot of these travel bloggers, and their SEO value decreased. So already they had taken a major hit with regards to income. And then COVID-19 happened, and all of that search engines, those related keywords, those keywords related to travel, nobody was searching those anymore. So, I was finding that a lot of the travel blogging colleagues that I started out with, who did not run travel, or who did not run, I guess, personality blogs, and who were not really into the, TikTok, Instagram, influencer marketing space, some of them lost 90% of their income because they did not develop a personal brand, and because they were entirely reliant on search and SEO and Google, which didn't favor them. While myself, on the other hand, yes, I took a hit in income the first half of the year, but things have really picked up in the second half, especially as in-person events are starting again, especially as production, I work in broadcasting, has started up again, and influencer marketing spend or advertising spend on branded content campaigns is on an upswing again. So I haven't really been affected by that. So again, I think it depends on what your revenue and your business models are.
Well, that sounds awesome. Personal branding as a survival strategy for the COVID time sounds just awesome. And it's definitely possible to, develop it at least a little bit right now.
Absolutely.
So
now's the best time. Now's the best time.
And what I really love about it is that probably if you develop a website that is devoted to some certain niche or content type or topic, then you're not so easy to switch, you're in some type of a crisis.
Yeah.
So, and when you are a person, you definitely have lots of interests and, activities you do, and platforms with, where you have a presence, and that's so much, smart.
And that's absolutely it. Because I haven't been able to travel as much this year, and because nobody has been, or people have not been as interested in travel content this year, I've really pivoted towards doing more lifestyle content. And I'm a new mom. I had a baby at the beginning of the year, and I've been really engrossed in that. And so I've found a new audience of new moms like myself, or moms who have been in the game for a while, who are interested in some of my thoughts and perspectives on motherhood. And so that shift was really easy for me to make. And that shift was really easy for my audience to accept because they're following me. They're following Oneika, and Oneika travels, but Oneika does a variety of other things as well. So that has been, I think, very helpful in terms of weathering the storm or the drought, rather, when it comes to work, particularly in the travel industry this year.
Well, Oneika, first of all, congratulations.
Yeah.
So the next thing is that we started already, to build that list of ways to develop a brand, like social media. What else can our listeners do, to start building their personal brand now? What are some other ways to do it?
Well, I mean, I will always, praise social media. I think that's one of the best ways to get your name out there, to get your work out there, especially in a time where COVID is limiting the social interactions that we can have in person. So I think that now is really the time to leverage all of your online platforms, whether it's via social media or something like LinkedIn or through a personal website, for instance. But sometimes, you know what, the old school methods are best, word of mouth as transmitted by friends and families. Those friends and family members, I mean, those will be your first fans, and often they will be your most diehard fans. They will be your most engaged fans because they know you and they want you to do well. So you can leverage, their social networks, and not necessarily social media networks, but just their social circles, and really have people who are invested in you as a person, right? As you build your personal brand, they are invested in you as a person and they want you to do well. So they will endorse you to other people in their social networks and social media networks. So I think that's really important as well. And that's something that I feel in 2020, because we're all glued to our screens and so on and so forth. I think that's something that we've forgotten. If you're creating a personal brand, at the end of the day, it's all about relationships. And people with really strong personal brands and people who will do well in the industry, and who will end up generating the most revenue, are people who are actually relatable for the most part. And that relatability is built through relationships. So one of the things that I've started doing that I neglected to do, I have all these beautiful business cards, and I often forget to pass them out. But the reality is that even now, even during COVID times, I actually come across a lot of people. I meet a lot of people in the street or when I'm traveling or when I'm out to dinner. And so I've started passing out my business cards. Business cards, they have my name, they have my website, they have my social media platforms. And so that's a way to make a connection with someone and a lasting impression, so to speak. Because if you give them a business card, maybe they'll check it and throw it away, but maybe they'll take the time to Google you or to, hit you up on your website or your social media. And that's a relationship that's been built because you've actually met that person in person. So it's kind of a warm lead, so to speak.
Well, it is. And we actually have a question that relates to that topic of building contacts and relationships from the chat. Is, when the lead is not that warm, how do you approach brands for collaborations?
Oh yeah, that's a fantastic question. That's a fantastic question. So how do you pitch brands is essentially the question. So one of the things that you have to do, you need to make sure that you have a media kit first and foremost. And a media kit is going to basically be your resume or your digital portfolio that outlines who you are, what you do, who your audience is, what your niche is, and you present that in a nice digital form, and then you cold call or cold email leads or contacts that you may have found in your searches online. Now, back in the day, I used to find a lot of contacts on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and I used to cold email them. Luckily, at this point, I actually have a manager now who handles a lot of that communication for me. So that has taken a lot off my plate.
Yes.
But you know what? If you don't put the work into it, like nothing is going to fall into your lap. Let's put it that way. So I think it's really important for you, if you are trying to build your brand, and if you don't necessarily have the funds to hire someone to be your PR and to do all of that outreach, then you got to just put the elbow grease into it and get to the nitty gritty and just do it, so that you can put yourself out there. But yeah, I mean, finding contacts online. Luckily, we live in a digital age where everybody is contactable, everybody is findable. And if you do contact someone who is not necessarily the correct contact, but you ask them if they're able to forward you or point you in the direction of who is going to be the correct contact.
Well, that's right. And at the same time, you know, well, you are easily discoverable now. It's easy to talk to you. It's easy to find you. It's easy to, you know, approach you with with some content, with some contract, with some idea. But, you know, it took probably a lot of time to grow your readership and, you know, this overall traffic and just let's call it readers, you know.
Yeah.
And probably you have some recommendations on how to attract traffic or readers when you're building a personal brand.
Yes. So building a personal brand, my number one tip is to be prolific. I can't tell you the number of people who contact me and they say, oh, Oneika, I want to be an influencer, or I want to be on TV, or I want to be a top blogger. But then I go to their profiles or I go to their website and they haven't created any content. You have to create content, and you have to create content consistently in order to build an audience and in order to build that personal brand. Nobody's going to follow you if you have one post. You need to be constantly in their face and in their ears, even to the point of being annoying. It's very, very imperative and very important that you are prolific, which means that you are consistently and constantly creating content. Second thing is that you want to create content that draws people in, content that is relevant. So whether it is timely content, for example, I live in the United States, the presidential elections are going on. So chances are, if you're creating content around something or an issue or a topic that is happening in the now, that is current, that is relevant, that people get emotional about, well, they are going to read, look, listen, and share whatever it is you have to say or whatever it is that you create. So it's really important to understand what your audience wants or your prospective audience needs, and to create that content. Number 3, find content or find topics that you yourself are passionate about and have a big knowledge or a larger or strong knowledge base about. Travel is my thing. You know, I've been traveling since I was a kid. It's something that I'm very passionate about. I love photography. So in terms of telling travel stories, that's kind of my thing. I'm passionate about it, and I think it shows when I create content around it. Now, something like cooking, you know, food blogs and food content is really popular, but I don't have a passion for that at all. And I don't have any expertise in it either. So there's no USP, there's no unique selling point for me there. And therefore I just stay in my lane and I do the travel and lifestyle thing. As well, I think you asked about strategies. I would say devise different platforms platforms from which you can derive. Oops, that's my child crying in the background. Mom life. But make sure that you have different income streams and different revenue streams. So don't only rely on one platform because you know what? They're really finicky. And if you rely on Instagram and then the algorithm has a change and all of a sudden, you know, your likes and your engagement drops and that was your only one revenue stream, well, then you're kind of up a creek without a paddle. So it is very, very important that you do have multiple income streams. And in order to do that, you're going to have to be on different platforms.
Right. Thank you so much for such a great answer. And probably we can, you know, start wrapping it up. And I'm going to ask one personal thing.
Sure.
So I'm just curious, really. now when you're really well known in the industry, do you still work on, maintaining your image as a blogger, or you feel that the competition is growing and you have to work harder than before?
I think it really depends. I think that anyone who is invested and passionate in what they do, you're going to continue to work at it. And for myself, I still love what I'm doing. I have absolutely evolved from what I'm doing. It's so funny when people call me a blogger, because I'm like, I actually don't blog that often anymore, because I've evolved. So there are other interests that I have, and I create content in other ways and in different places and in spaces and platforms that aren't necessarily my own. I'm a TV host, as you mentioned at the beginning of this, and I report and I host for NBC here in New York. So a lot of the things I'm doing actually don't show up on any of my owned and operated platforms at all. They appear on Channel 4 here in New York City, and they live on, NBC websites and things like that. So, I think that any person who is creative, any person who is branding themselves or has a personal brand, that brand is going to grow and evolve and change, because as a person, you are growing and evolving and changing. And I think that as soon as you become really blasé, or you're not passionate about what you're doing, then you're not going to grow anymore, and you're not going to be very successful at what you are doing. So take that temperature check and, check in with yourself and reevaluate what it is you want and what it is you have and where it is you want to be in 1 year, in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years. And I think that will really guide, some of the processes and procedures that you need to engage in order to get to those places.
Thank you so much. Oh my God, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. So interesting. I learned a lot, really. Thank you so much. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful.
All right. And thank you, listeners, for being with us today. Thank you for being active. Thank you for asking your questions. And tomorrow is the last day of the summit. So we'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. GMT. Remember to pay attention to your emails, and you'll get the link to the live session right into your inbox. So I'm going to quickly read the program for tomorrow because it's brilliant. So first of all, our secret guest is Booking.com, and they will hold a workshop called How to Sell More Rooms with Booking.com search extension. So if you're interested, then you have to join, because we're not going to record the session. Remember, it's not going to be recorded, so you have to go live. And next is Roberta Di Giacomo and Fernanda Santos from Musement, which is part of the TUI brand now. We'll explain how to sell more tours and activities online as the market is starting to recover in certain destinations. And at the very end of the summit, we've prepared a special event for you, just like today. So you will get ready for the Traffic Show episode 3 premiere with Jason Bernard and Tristam Jarman. And we'll see you tomorrow, and have a nice one today. Bye-bye.